This is Naoki Yoshida,
This is Fern Hall.
and you are listening to Aetheryte Radio.
Aetheryte Radio.
Here we go!
Hello and welcome to Aetheryte Radio, Gamerscape's Final Fantasy XIV podcast, teleporting all that Final Fantasy XIV news right into your ear holes. I'm Fusion X. We don't have a full house again, unfortunately. Zen is out today, but we have Aldino back.
I am here.
Woo!
I am here. I thought you were Aldino.
Oh,
Thanks,
wow.
Dad.
Oh, geez. Thanks. Yeah, thank you, Dad.
And of course,
bona fide. I was
not
like bona
letting
fide
me-
dad of the podcast.
yeah,
Fusion
not
X.
letting me get
Yeah.
away with poor humor. We have Rook.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah. What's up? How you
Obviously, we are the humor police. Obviously.
doing? Is that
Clearly.
like the vegan police? I'm thinking like Scott
Yeah.
Pilgrim now.
Oh my gosh. Pretty much.
Oh man. All right, so last week we had FanFest. We talked a lot about Endwalker. We talked about Reaper. We talked about the Bunny Boys. If you have not checked our Twitter out recently, you should go do that. Our good friend Glenn Onhell, he did a little bit of editing of our reaction video, and it is fantastic. So please go make sure to check that out. So today here we have the entirety of Team Mildly Amused, but only one member of Team Bunny Boys.
I gotta hold down the fort for Zen. I gotta keep the excitement and the hype just real, you know? It's a daunting challenge here, but I believe in myself, and I believe in the spirit of Zen cheering me on.
Well, you know, it's not easy to stay mildly amused either. It's really hard to just keep it at that level. You know, we're gonna have to try.
Yeah.
I mean,
Until
look,
we get
I
you
don't-
talking about Reaper, and
the
then
thing
exactly.
is I don't have a problem maintaining that energy level of mildly amused.
Mhm.
That's like my thing. Like, I got this. I can be so mildly amused.
You don't even know.
Steph in the chat, did you know that there was a tribute to the creator of the manga Berserk?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is true. All this week it was Munasan, if I remember right.
Yeah.
I've never read Berserk. I
You're right, I
know
think, yeah.
a little bit of what it is. But yeah, in Ulda, there's just been rows of Dark Knights just all up and down the street with their little campfire minions. It's crazy.
Yeah.
it's so interesting. I had no idea that Miura's work had so directly affected the design of Dark Knight until a recent interview that came out, actually, which I don't remember which
I'm trying to remember where it came
network
from.
it's
I saw the
Yeah.
stuff from it.
Yeah.
but I
You
didn't
can
see
find
the
out real quick.
source.
Yeah,
but
Aldino, look
yeah.
it up. But if you didn't know, a lot of the actual like poses, which is partially why people were doing Dark Knight and things for this particular vigil in Ulda, were actually directly drawn from inspiration in Berserk. And it's been a huge pivotal manga that's affected, I think, a lot of the Japanese media landscape, but also Final Fantasy XIV, which is just such a cool thing that I honestly didn't know very much about. I was really cool. It was
Anytime
really
anybody's got a
interesting.
giant ass sword,
Yeah.
there you
Chances
go.
are.
That's the influence. Yeah, right there.
So it was PC Gamer, I do believe. Yep.
Okay.
PC
I see the
Gamer.
article here. Yep.
Yeah, lots of interviews coming out. It's like they had some kind of big event or something.
Who knew?
So I'm sure there will be more to come. So keep an eye out.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So last week we talked about the keynote. This week, the plan was to have just a live letter episode, right? There honestly wasn't a lot of new stuff from the live letter. We did get some new stuff. A couple
Yeah, a
of
little
really
bit.
cool product collaborations.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's mostly just a recap of like Zadner and stuff. So we'll go through that, and then I'm sure we'll talk about some other stuff as well here.
Yeah,
So
I didn't get to screech about some things because I wasn't on the previous podcast because of work.
that's
So
right.
I need to screech about Reaper at the very least.
let's go back. Let's go back a
Sure.
little bit to the keynote. Aldino, what are you excited for from the FanFest keynote?
Wow, it's like an interview. Sure. For me, I specifically the Reaper reveal. So, you know, we were talking about interviews that people had otherwise. So there was an interview about Reaper talking about like, hey, is it, you know, utility or is it pure DPS? And they're like, we know, but we're not going to tell you yet. But the thing that really from that video that I loved was you can kind of suss out at least what it looks like it works right now. Because they had like 3 weapon skills, right? And then like when you switch into that avatar possessed mode, I don't know what the heck they call it, it looked like just one of the abilities changed color. It's like you were in a super mode, kind of like Nestrond, you know what I mean?
Makes me
So that's
think
kinda cool.
of Old Machinist with the
Right,
heated
exactly.
stuff.
Yeah, you
I
know,
I
it's
really
like
hope
that.
they call that ability Void Hug. I want to go on record. I just Void Hug. Just
yeah,
I mean, they have to make it sound fantasy, so it's
yeah,
gonna at least be Void's Embrace or
yeah,
something.
something like that. I mean, I
that
was
works
tempted to
too.
call it a special backwards hug. You know,
Special backwards hug.
yeah, exactly.
Special backwards hug.
It
It's
it,
a
So
it
maybe
doesn't
it's a
quite
little spicy
doesn't
in a
can
quite
way.
workshop
roll
that.
off the tongue.
Okay, we can workshop that. See, this is why I don't make the abilities, right?
This is why
Right,
Aldino
right.
isn't in Loke. He
Yeah,
doesn't do
exactly.
localization.
I'd leave that to Koji. He's the master there, and of the special backwards hug too. If you
Yeah.
look at all the memes.
I mean, I can only hope. It would be, I think, a great betrayal if after all this time when people were hoping for Eggy skins,
Yeah,
if they did a ghost skin of Koji, but at the same time, I
come
don't
on.
really know if anybody would be that upset because
I'd
it
pay for it.
is hilarious.
I'd pay
It's
for it
so
on the mod
good.
station.
Look,
Like, you could-
if we can pay for orchestrion roles, why
Yeah.
can't I pay to have? I almost went weird with Charles naming. I just want a Void Hug from Koji. Why can't
Yeah.
we just?
I mean, that
I think
seems
it's fair.
fair. That seems
Yeah.
good to me. Yeah, not weird at all.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but this does look cool. And I would love it if there was something where, like, while you were in that state, like you pointed out,
Mhm.
Aldino, you did have your abilities be affected in some way. So,
Mhm.
like, you could use different things and, like, that would actually be part of the interplay of, like, how you're learning the class and when you're, like, timing the window
Yeah.
because those abilities will change in a certain way. I've recently been playing a few classes in other MMOs that kind of do that. And I actually think
Mhm.
it's so fun because when you actually have to look through it and then, kind of figure out, like, okay, so what are, like, the bonuses of being in this state? Or what are the
Right.
drawbacks? And when
Mhm.
should I do this? I think it creates a different level of gameplay that's fun. And I hope that they do something kind of creative with it if that's the case, as
Yeah.
opposed to just being like, this is your burst window. So
I
hit
was-
the buttons.
I had that word in my mind. I'm like, as soon as I can, my next turn here to talk, I'm gonna say burst window. Yeah,
Right.
right. That's definitely like when you think about
Yeah.
it, right? It's okay. Now I'm like buddy with my little huggy
Mhm.
void scent guy, and now this is my burst window.
To me,
It very
it
well
w-
could be the case. It would be
Yeah.
cooler if they did something else with it, but I think that's kind of my expectation, at least at this point.
Right.
So.
You know, it to me is exactly what I wanted Summoner to play like. You know, this kind of evoker instead of the Summoner with the pet. But it's really cool to see how they envision that for Reaper. I can't wait to see exactly how the avatar works. It's not a pet.
I'm
it's
really
not out.
curious about the lore and the story with this. Like, does
Right.
this like random void scent have a name? Like,
Mhm.
is this Gary? Does Gary
Yeah.
come give us a hug and then we fuse with Gary and just kick ass for a little bit? Like, how
Yeah.
does this work?
Right.
Gary the void scent.
You
It's
know,
canon
there
now.
was someone somewhere. I wish I could attribute this to someone. Was like, what if it's our shard from the 13th that
I
failed? And I'm like,
saw that.
that'd be really
Yeah.
I like that, but at the same
Yeah.
time,
cool. It's like
right,
for
it's
one
that
job
idea
though.
of like, but the void quests were locked behind all this other stuff. How would we get to that?
Mhm.
So
I mean, I'm sure they could do some
Yeah.
with what we learned in the main story. Like the idea and concept of shards isn't too, it's not too far fetched.
fair.
Even if there's
That's
that
fair.
little like fill in gap in the middle, that is the fact that like yes, those warriors
you
there
come
on
back
the
to the
on that
void
particular
quest
shard
as a
failed.
reaper,
Yeah.
and they're like, "You've done what with the void since we talked last?
But now,
you didn't think that this information was important to us?"
Yeah.
That would be so cool, but it's also kind of difficult because I feel like that level of lore in a class would be just like the level of
Yeah.
cool would be so high that
Mm.
I feel like you'd have to really be working with the other classes to
Mhm.
give them the same kind of like resonance, especially without having things like the role quests and stuff or
Yeah.
like the job quests and stuff, right?
They come
You
out
know-
with Reaper. It's like, hey, check out, like, it's your Ardbert from the 13th, and then the lore's like looking at Summer.
Mhm.
You probably shouldn't summon that in front of Tiamat. It's gonna
Yeah.
make her upset. Stop being summoner.
There's a time and a place, bro. Come on.
I mean, can you imagine summoning Phoenix in front of Alphino and
Yeah.
Alice or their dad in Charlion, and you're
right?
just standing
It's-
there like, oh, my bad.
I can't wait to assert dominance in Charlian by summoning Phoenix just right in the middle of directly on his desk. I'm gonna find his desk. I'm gonna summon Phoenix.
You
That's
just
a good way
walk
to
up to the
put him in his
desk.
place.
You just push the papers aside. You're like, just give me a
Yeah.
minute. You just get up right on the desk and you squat
Yeah.
down. And I'm kidding. You don't do that. But I like, there's a part of me, like, story wise, and I hope we get to do this.
Yeah.
I just want to, like, preferably not physically, but I want to, like, verbally abuse the shit out of Papa
yeah.
L in front of his kids, and then his kids are like, yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
Yeah, I mean, we know that there's
Oh.
some kind of distance between them. Granted, we don't know like the full extent of this, but it does seem like they were more directly raised by Louis Soir. It does seem like for parents that would theoretically care about their children that they
there
have just
is a little
not been
bit.
present.
Yeah.
Just from his vibe in the trailer, there's that little bit of like, so that's why they left home. Like,
Yeah. Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm looking
yeah.
forward to that. I think that'll be great.
But
I can't wait to see it.
I do agree, Aldino. Like Reaper looks amazing. And honestly, I'm not usually one to get that excited about melee classes. I know that like you yourself were kind of disappointed that it wasn't a spellcaster.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that we'll have a spellcaster next time because it just makes sense to me. But this did have a bit more of that magical vibe to it that I think I was anticipating. And the moment that it popped up, I was like, ooh, me like everything that's happening. Edgelord time. All right.
Yeah. I really just can't wait to see where on the spectrum of selfish to utility it lies, because there's a place for either, right? There's a place for another samurai. But it would be nice if there was another dragoon / ninja, you know?
Yeah, it's rough, right? Just with the way that the game works, you know. And we've talked about this a million times, right? It's like, okay, there's no pure support class, but like Dragoon can make people crit more, or you know, Ninja can do their thing. Like it's just, you know, everybody gets like one thing, right? Yeah. So except for Samurai. Samurai's just like, I don't have to worry about my meters dropping ever. It's like, I mean, I'll cast these things. I'll just sit here for like an hour. I don't need to like recast Blood of the Dragon a dozen times. I can just let it sit.
I mean, it is weird though, because I mean, even Monk has Mantra. Like every one of the other melee at least has a single semi-utility thing that they can do, right? It is strange that Samurai to me, and this is all objectively speaking, right? But like Samurai to me, you know, has one of the more simplistic rotations out of the group, has like no additional stuff that you have to take into account for like party utility or anything like that. And then you have all the other ones where there are all these other little things or like a little detail or that one utility. So, I mean, I wouldn't be that surprised depending on how they want to consider balance in the game. And we've seen them more and more kind of honing in on these like little niche sub genres, right? Like with DPS, now we're trying to release DPS that round out each of the mini categories within DPS. So I wouldn't be that surprised if they did something like another pure damage, no utility kind of thing.
And there's two ways they could go to it, right? They could either look at Samurai and be like, okay, we'll give you one thing. Yeah. We'll let you have one utility, and then Reaper will have something. Or they're like, yeah, you just do your thing.
I always feel bad when we talk about like the utility to damage spectrum and we don't even talk about machinists, because theoretically it's supposed to be of the ranged physical DPS, the selfish one. But no one even talks about it because the damage is still so low in general, you know.
I mean, I think it's fun as hell to play, so I just
exactly.
I don't care.
It is super fun. But I mean, it does raise like an interesting question with that, right? Because it is one of those things where it's like, it's a cool class. The design is really great. I think it plays really, it's so much better in Shadowbringers than it has been previously. In Stormblood, there were so many problems, and people I think that really loved the class were frustrated, right? But it is so interesting to me that within the category of ranged physical, which has largely been a sort of like utility mobility hybrid, where you have more utility, you have more mobility, and you can kind of act more freely because of that. But the payoff is that you have lower DPS. It's like, I don't mind that they went that route with Machinist per se, with making it more pure DPS, but it is interesting that they decided to do that in a category that otherwise, you know what I mean? It's like, they still felt as though they needed to mitigate it to some degree because I'm guessing because of your mobility. that's the only thing that I can think of as to why, it wouldn't be
Yeah.
right on par with Samurai or something if they were
Range-
going to start categorizing this
Range
way.
DPS
Yeah.
got hit by the bad thought process of Dancer. We're gonna make Dancer the support because it's new.
Sure.
But what about these other ones? And so obviously they came back a little bit, right? They're like,
Yeah.
okay, Bard, we'll give you a little bit of something.
Little bit
Machinist,
of-
you just do your thing. And I'm like, okay.
Go play with a robot.
Yeah, that's sold. Like,
Yeah.
So
I do
yeah,
see in chat.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I was gonna say, I do see in chat, Infinity Fiasco saying that they think the next job is going to be a scouting job so that Ninja can share gear too, which is actually something that I've heard a lot of the community talking about and theorizing about what our next jobs will be. Will we get 2? Will we only get 1 past this expansion? This time we know we're getting a DPS and a healer. And we were having this conversation on Discord and streams all over the place this past week.
Yeah, I think if I had like my perfect list, like if the devs were like, let's do what Fusion wants, they never will. But like, let's say like they were
number 1.
So what I would like to see, right? One of the big things last week, we never heard about a Beastmaster limited job, right?
Yeah.
So either they're still working on it or it's not happening right now. So what I would love to see for 7.0, give us some kind of scouting melee job, give us a new caster, and with that, rework the casters a little bit, right? Same kind of, treatment, in every expansion, they're like, okay, this expansion, they're going to kind of, work the healers a little bit. Next expansion, do the casters, do what you need to do with summoner, and then put Blue Mage into the normal job space.
Yeah. And that could even be the 4th caster, like I don't think people would be upset about that.
It could be, yeah. I mean, it could even be like, right, again, if we the potential for doing one job in expansion, be like, okay, we're gonna get this new melee thing, but also we're gonna let people actually use Blue Mage in content that normal people play.
Yeah, it is so interesting because we've talked a lot about all the stuff that obviously the keynote touched on. Male Vieira, yes, as part of Team Buddy Boy, I was very excited.
Say Male Vieira without being like, oh my
god, so cute, look, so good. And Reaper, and then all the other news that we got, the news zones and all that kind of stuff. But there were some things that were kind of like big question marks coming off of the keynote, which is this limited job category, because it feels to me like, granted, we don't know what the full scope of content and things that they're trying to do for the expansion, which there's a bunch of new things, and I'm really excited to get more details. But it does seem like limited jobs have become something where they're like, well, we need to think about this or something, right? Because usually, and with what they had kind of announced originally when they first were releasing Blue Mage and all that kind of stuff, it really did seem like they were going to be on a like quicker release pace for things regarding like limited jobs. And the fact that we got all these hints for Beastmaster, but that Beastmaster hasn't showed up is interesting. And it does make me wonder if right now they're on that fence of like, is this a type of content that we want to keep developing, or do we want to try and focus our, attentions elsewhere? So, I mean, honestly, I would not be that sad if they kept the current Blue Mage stuff that's in the game, and then like we talked about, they did like a more limited, like the PvP like condensation of abilities, right? They did a more limited group of abilities so that if you took it into content, you'd have that rotation, those skills, and then you'd be able to play it as a caster or something. I mean, that would be fine with me. I'm sure there are people out there that wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of people that I've talked to seem to be of the opinion that like, I might even like the limited job stuff, but I wish I could play this in the actual game.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too, and I'm really curious, like, what kind of numbers Square Enix has on their end of, like, people that have played it once or people that are continuing to play it, because it's right, it's that idea of a job as content instead of a job as job to do content, and so it's a lot of it's like people either love it or hate it, and so I'm really curious, like, how that's impacted potential future development of limited jobs, but.
Right.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything else from the keynote, Aldi, that we need to talk about here?
I think the only other thing was Labyrinthos. I think, right?
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
we were talking about that a little bit when during the keynote, but that I think I'm sure that other people have said it too, but that seems to me like a bunker, right?
Oh,
Just hey,
totally.
that's their plan, right? Yeah, like whatever. You guys can die in the fire. We're under here. I can't wait to see exactly, the trappings around that, when they built it. Is this their magnum opus, right? Is this their backup plan forever? Is this why they haven't been talking to us? It's a really cool point about Charlie and why they're so anti-intervention, I
Yeah.
can't wait to see more about it.
It's really
We've
yeah, it's
had
really
some.
interesting.
Mhm.
I say we've had some wild theories. Maybe I've
Yeah.
had some wild theories
Yeah.
specifically. But we were talking about it, I think, last week, right?
Yeah.
Labyrinthos is so interesting because, like you said, I think at first glance, I also was going, this seems to be
Yeah.
some kind of apocalypse bunker. And then there's this little like mention from Yoshida, right? That's like, oh, what's this weird technology
Yeah.
in here? Who knows? And we went on a whole spiel last week.
Mhm.
I won't go into all of it again, but just like a
Sure.
little touch base that it does like it's very notable that it's underground,
Yeah.
which as we know, there's this idea of like something that came from beneath.
Mhm.
It was interesting to me too because of the music and sort of the look of various parts of it. I was
Right.
saying last week it reminded me of like a pipe organ or
Yeah.
these different things. And
Mhm.
the fact that labyrinthos can mean like a labyrinth, or it can also mean the inner chamber of the ear that
Mhm.
like registers sound, which also looks like a nautilus.
That's
I was
right.
like,
There you go.
That's right. I remember. I forgot the exact connections, but I'm like,
Right.
Brooke was talking about ears last week.
Yeah. I
yeah,
wanted to get into that because I saw, like a reaction. I think you sent it to Moose or something, Fusion. I remember seeing
Yeah,
that
yeah.
tweet. And I was like, I want to know more about what was talked about.
yeah. I mean, it's really curious because we know there was some kind of sound in the
Mhm.
ancients that came from underground. And I think a lot of us have been assuming that it's some kind of entity or creature or
Yeah.
monster. But this is a wild speculation,
Uh-huh.
and I fully acknowledge that, right? Wild speculation. But the idea that there could have been some kind of group or place or location that actually instigated it with
Mhm.
intention is really fascinating to me. And the fact that maybe the Sherlions found this place, or or somebody led them to this place, because Venat's been a whole other topic of
Yeah.
discussion, right? And
Mhm.
that maybe they're thinking that with their knowledge or with their sort of vision of the future, that they could bunker down there and maybe even like further the end of
Yeah.
the world, or just ride out the end of the world, or be the ones that survived to start a better world, is
Mhm.
really interesting to me and complex in a way that I think could make for some fun material
I'm
there.
getting
Who
like
knows?
Godzilla versus Kong vibes now. Like,
Sure.
I will spoil. It's still fairly new. If you haven't seen it, go watch it.
Yeah.
You'll be able to draw those same parallels.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll jump into the live letter. So patch 5.55. This is gonna have part 2 of the MSQ. This is gonna be it. This is it for till November.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's gonna drop this Tuesday, May 25th. So next week, obviously, will then be hands-on. So I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about Zadner, a lot about the Dalriata assault. So make sure to tune in for that. But yeah, it's gonna have. This is it for the story. So they're gonna have this new storyline. They're gonna have new Save the Queen updates, epilogue quests for Your Hot Dark Apocalypse.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
I think. Uh, do they have it later on in the in the talk where they said that it's going to be added to New Game Plus, right? Like you can do Yorha New Game Plus very soon.
Did they? Did
Yeah,
I
I'm
miss
not
that?
I
sure.
think I saw. I thought I saw a little graphic that said, "Hey, it's coming to New Game Plus." But that to me, if I was a nearhead, which I am not, I would be like, "Do I need to play it in New Game Plus to see if something changed?" Like,
Oh,
because
that was.
you're always looking for the specter of Yoko Taro in everything. Is he under that
Yeah,
rock?
but at
Like,
the
do I
same
need
time, like, no.
right? No,
This is Final
don't make us
Fantasy
do that.
14. We don't
I
do
know.
that here. You're in our house, Yoko Taro.
Yeah. Get out from under that rock.
I mean, I
I
don't know.
mean,
We'll see.
yeah, I can only hope that this somehow brings it all
Mhm.
together, right? And it's funny because I think I've been saying that for several patches now. I can only hope that this somehow brings it all together. And it's funny because, I mean, when we've talked about this, when we've done our reviews and we've gone back over the different portions, I mean, I do really love what Yoko Taro does as a designer. I do actually really love the aesthetic and a lot of the things about Nier. I think it's really cool and very avant-garde and does a lot of unique things in the gaming space. But I also don't think that this has been a very successful collaboration, which we've talked about in a lot of ways as well, you know? So for me,
we'll not have that discussion again.
No.
We've had it
But-
before. Listen to any episode released in the past year, you'll find
Yes. It's just, it's hard for me to be excited about this, like, because I think I kept wanting to be excited and then not being excited when it actually
It's
was given
like,
to us.
We're past the point of being excited, right? Because we had Paradigm's Breach with the last patch, and then they're like, and then there's quests afterwards. And these quests are like, hey, go back into the raid, click on 2 things, come back out, and we'll give you an email and 310 gil. And that's it. That's all it's been. There's like there's nothing there. And so like maybe there's some magical like line of dialogue in this that's gonna make everything make sense, but like you had that window of opportunity. It's gone.
It was on the special site got updated, and it says that your Hot Dog Apocalypse are coming to New Game Plus in 5.55.
I gotcha.
I don't disagree with you, right? That would be a very Yoko Taro thing to do.
Yeah,
but this is a
pretty
collaboration in 14, and we think that's not a thing that we do here. So like it would be very odd to have that there.
I'm sorry for whoever goes to try and figure it out, who plays through it all in New Game Plus to see.
I mean, I would almost rather that we have something that's an oddity in 14 that gets put in with that New Game Plus, just so that I sit here like, oh, okay, you know, and have some kind of moment where I actually, you know, am excited from a story like standpoint to get to do some of this, because I like the raids. I've had fun running them. I actually think that they are enjoyable to repeat as far as the just like content and stuff goes, but there has been this huge gaping hole in the story for me. Not even that like I can't understand the various threads, it's just that it doesn't feel like it came together in a way that was satisfying at all. So to have something that would maybe give us more and give us a little bit more to chew on while we wait for the expansion in November, I would not like turn my nose up at it. Give it to me, I'll take it. Whatever sort of weird thing we have to do for this, that's fine. Make it unique, it's Yoko Taro. Do something with those weekly quests, maybe do something with New Game Plus. That's fine with me. Like, I don't mind at all.
Also, there's going to be a reward. We don't know what, but there will be a reward for players that collect all of the Triple Triad cards that are currently available. So
a lot of them.
It could be, and like it might just be a card, like another card,
Yeah.
right? They've done that before when you hit a certain like number of cards in your collection. It's like, here's another one.
I hope it's not. I feel like they wouldn't bill it. I mean, yeah, there's 3. I was just looking at this earlier. 344, 300.
There are a few.
Let me see. There's definitely like 350-ish roughly.
Yeah.
So that's like, it's somewhere around that marker, which is, I mean, I think it's actually pretty fun. I've always liked being able to get some of those cards. I like Triple Triad. Maybe it's because I come from Final Fantasy VIII, which was my first like really robust Final Fantasy that I remember playing for myself and like really loving. And so like in 8, Triple Triad was actually like, if you were gonna do that, you had to be committed. You played the game in a certain way in order to get all the cards and in order to beat this terrible woman who just dragged you along and made your life a living hell. Like, and I loved it because it was so memorable, and collecting them was really enjoyable, and you felt really like satisfied by the end if you were able to beat her and get all the cards. So I've always enjoyed Triple Triad. And it's actually been interesting seeing a few people that I never expected would get into Triple Triad, because there is something where they're saying, hey, if you like now reach these different, I have collected all the cards up to X point, we're going to be adding additional things in. So I've seen a lot of people going around coming up with like card glamours and doing all this stuff.
Right. I
where they're
remember you
like,
talking about that the other day.
Yeah, which is cute. And I think it's
awesome.
fun to see people trying to do that. And I mean, hey, we've got a lot of time until November. So.
You know, and it's funny too. I see this, and you know, we talked about this about Triple Triad a little bit when they did the oh gosh, the open tournaments, was that
Tournaments, yeah.
Yeah,
And
and like the draft, yeah, like that stuff was really cool. But it also reminds me they used to have achievements for like collecting orchestrion rolls too, and like
Mhm.
I haven't had those in quite a while.
Well, we have to wait until they do the Guitar Hero update for orchestrion rolls. I'm sorry, Theater Rhythm. Right, they made their own rhythm game. That's right. They just
I
do that.
mean, theater rhythm's pretty solid though.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I would be
I-
down if they
Put
brought
that in
some
Gold
theater
Saucer.
rhythm into.
Okay.
Oh my, you'll never see
That
me
would
again.
be
Yeah.
so fun. I would totally get into that. And
Oh
if
my
it did
goodness.
tie in somehow to the orchestrions that you yourself had collected, or like you had to collect them and then
Yeah.
bring them there and then like beat the level, I would
Oh my god.
I would do it.
When the second one came out, when Curtain Call came out,
Yeah.
I would spend hours perfecting Under the Weight on the hardest difficulty.
Yeah.
And I did it. I've got a perfect combo.
Yep.
I did it.
Yeah, you get your favorite song and you're like, I am going to beat that no matter what.
Yeah, like
I-
it's so cool. I love
I
those
would love
games.
it too if it would allow you to unlock something like a universal orchestrion where, if you beat however many or whatever it
Mhm.
was, you could unlock something where you could at any time like choose in the game to switch just
Oh,
your
sure.
orchestrions on. Like I'm
Mm.
trying to figure out how to phrase this in a way that makes absolute sense. Like you know what I
You
mean?
want an
Like you
iPod.
could
Yeah.
You want an iPod.
yeah, like an iPod essentially in the game where
Arena
you could
Cross.
just shuffle through as opposed to listening even to like the in-game music. I would love that because I think that would be something that would be a unique reward that
Yeah.
people would use. So
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
people get the unique orchestrions and the different, special collectors things that you get
Mhm.
where you get an orchestrion in game, and I think people would really like to be able to just like turn that on without having to open up other applications. Not that it's that hard, but
Yeah.
Right.
I just want maybe there's one mount where you can change the music on because you have the mount music, but put a speaker on it. Please.
Give us a mount.
You may-
Give us a mount that's just literally an orchestrion roll. Or the actual orchestrion.
Yeah.
Just give us a jukebox mount. We'll just fly around on
Yeah.
it.
I mean that'd be cool. I'd do that. I'd ride that.
We could
Yeah.
show up to various market events and stuff.
Mhm.
We'll just anybody wants to play some music. We'll be like a food truck, but for music.
Mhm.
It'll be great. Any flea I guess Chigo markets in 14.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
okay, so with 5.55, we're gonna get Zadnor. We've talked about this a little bit, but we'll just recap it because that's really the bulk of all these patch notes or all the discussion from the live letter. So this is gonna be the last bit for Save the Queen. Resistance rank cap is going to go up from 15 to 25. New skirmishes and critical engagements will be added, and then we'll also have a new large-scale assault at the Dalriada with a max of 48 players. This looks like it's going to be that big airship that we saw at the end of Boja that kind of came in, and they're like, I think that would be a good time to leave.
Yeah.
So now we're going to just go back and just walk right up to it. They did talk about resistance honors. So previously they had talked about a way to progress after hitting that rank cap. And so that's what this is. It's going to say that sufficient metal can be used to acquire proofs of metal, and then proofs of metal can be exchanged for 3 types of honors that will increase attributes in these Save the Queen areas. So Son of Fortitude will increase max HP, Son of Valor will increase damage dealt, and then Son of Succor will increase healing potency. And it looks like those can stack at least to 2 or 3. So something to work towards. I'll be really curious if, it says Save the Queen areas, so I would assume Delibrum Savage. So that might help people that weren't on that initial train going through.
Maybe. I'm also curious too with, Dalriada. So it seems as though it's going to be functioning very similar to Delibrum, but there wasn't anything specifically said about there being some kind of savage mode with
Yeah,
it.
It's actually Dalriada, I think, is probably more comparable to Castrum.
Yeah. Because they
Mm.
said that, I think previously it was said that Delibrium would still be the hardest content. That Savage would still be harder than Dalriada.
Oh, interesting. It's
Yeah.
don't get me
It's
wrong,
weird,
I
right?
actually really did like the Castrum,
Yeah.
and I do love Delibrum, but it does seem strange that
Right.
I think after the great success of Savage with Delibrum, and especially with this being the culmination of the whole thing,
Mhm.
that there wouldn't be some kind of optional, Savage mode. And I think that
Yeah.
also would have helped tide over some of the raiding community that has been a little bit upset that they didn't get the ultimate. So, to me, I was actually excited because I was going, oh my gosh, I wonder
Yeah,
how hard this is
Savage.
going to be if I need to be trading in this metal to get the Fortitude or Valor or Succor so that I can actually help people survive it. But I guess it maybe, just retroactively makes other stuff a little bit easier.
maybe.
And
I think a lot
Delabrum
of
and
it too. I mean, especially when you consider just kind of in the content stratosphere or whatever we want to call it, like how much of like an outlier Delabrum is, because you can't access it via Duty Finder, and it's definitely content that I think, yes, there are people that still do Baldessian Arsenal, but there's really not that many. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be one of these things of content that it'll be popular for 6 months, maybe a little longer, because we have the big delay with the expansion. But at some point, it's going to be hard to get people into that. And so
yes,
obviously these changes with the proofs of metal, like that'll help for smaller groups. But
I agree, but I actually have a big
Mhm.
but on this one. I
Okay.
really only think that the reason that people aren't running Baldessian as much is because it's so hard to get to. Like,
Sure.
That's
even
fair.
with even with some of the changes, I mean, it's easier now, right? But I think so many people were put off of it, and
Mhm.
now it's not current, and there's not an easy way to
Yeah.
just get into it, like with Delabrum, right? And it's one of those things where we see people run stuff over and over and
Yeah.
over, right? Like old raid tiers, old extreme primals, those are some of the exceptions where I think we really do see like a drop off over time. But for stuff like this that have unique achievements, unique rewards, these like special additional mounts, this kind of thing,
Mhm.
we've seen a community hang in there with like this Baldessian content despite all odds, which I think speaks to the fact that there is a group of players that would want to do this kind of thing, that would want to
Right.
keep coordinating these large scale groups and assaults, even after they've run it into the ground. Like, it's one of those things where I think this is a really good move for SE to develop this kind of thing, to make more stuff like Delabrum, because for so long we've heard in the community, man, I'd love like an extreme dungeon where it's like each of the different bosses is essentially an extreme primal. Man, I'd love an actual raid that had trash mobs and unique things and
Mhm.
like multiple
I
bosses we had to
remember raids
progress
with
through.
trash mobs.
Yeah.
I know. So it's one of those things where to me this just seems like such a great way to address and
Mhm.
provide some content that like fills in a little gap that players might be feeling to some degree, but that isn't again like a necessity in your full lineup of end game, savage rating prog, ultimate rate. It's something that is again like a different kind of effort, but still falls into that category so that players who like that are going to enjoy it, but then players who might be interested in it will want to still get involved for those unique rewards and things. So I hope they keep doing this. I
Yeah.
hope we see more than just Delabrum in this lineup. And I think
Yeah.
I was sort of hoping that this next one, Dalriada, would kind of prove that it would be something where it's like, this is a type of content we want to develop in our sort of patch cycle moving forward that players can expect. Because I think it's been so successful, all things considered.
And it really could continue to be, like before we started the podcast, we were just, offhand talking about Destiny. And I'm like, that sort of content, the
The
Dalriada,
game, not just like
Equilibrium.
the idea
Yeah.
of Destiny.
Yeah. Not just Destiny, not our Destinies, which is to be on the moon.
It's like, man, you
and
guys are
run.
deep when you're not on this.
But that sort of Destiny style raid, because when you think of Delirium Savage, like the first thing that you do is that whole slime slash, other split. And it has these mechanics that are unique, right? Because it's such a large scale situation. So I'd love to see more of that. So yeah, I would love.
I think
I think. Yeah, go ahead.
I think for me, when we talk about this stuff, and how we want to see more things like Delabrum, my brain immediately jumps to the Ultima weapon trial from FanFest.
Yeah,
and the kind of fiasco that ended up being, where we get the patch and it just like shows up in Dunskythe, and we're like, Yoshida, what happened? He's like,
what happened?
we're not gonna have a 48 person trial, like
Right.
the queues are gonna be awful. And then they're like, okay, but also Delabrum.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's interesting, like obviously it's different,
Hard.
right? There's not role requirements, it's different content, but for me, like part of me, every time I think about content like that, I'm like, okay, at some point though, the queue, like even if
Yeah.
it's easier to get into than like Eureka, like obviously like Baldessian Arsenal is just, it's crazy to get into, but even then, like with Delabrum, especially Delabrum Savage now, that idea of, and this has always been kind of my stance, regardless of the Destiny especially, right, where people shouldn't have to rely on outside game or means outside the game in order to participate in content. But that's exactly what Baldessian Arsenal is. That's exactly what Delabrum Savage is. And so like obviously there's people doing it, Don't get me wrong.
Right.
People are doing it. People are enjoying it. Maybe not 100% my thing. So
See, it's very much my thing, and I'm all about that. And
Yeah.
I hope that they do some of the stuff with, they have been addressing this, right? Doing some things where they're trying to like increase a flexibility and scaling system, at least with some of the stuff in, you know, Boja and the critical engagements and things like that. So I think that type of deal will make it more accessible, like you said, Fusion, if you can't get 48 people together. But at the same time, it is always impressive to me how much, whenever I think there's no way we could get this many people together to do something in Final Fantasy XIV, how many times I am actually proven wrong with that. I remember at some point a while back, I was part of some, you know, marathon event type deal where we had like 4 or 5 different groups that were doing Crystal Tower raids, like all 3 alliances, everybody in there together, like it was a full group, minimum eye level, like doing these runs just for fun, you know, to kind of show off what the mechanics and things had been. And people came and they filled it. And it's like, I think that if you can prove that the content will be run and you have, you know, things that make it feel like this is a neat thing to do together, right? And with those larger scale instances, it takes a little bit of the pressure off. But I like that with Savage and things, they take advantage of those unique mechanics, the abilities, the actions, all that kind of stuff. I think it is a really clever way to provide additional challenge in a unique way in the game. So for me, I do hope they keep doing it, and I do hope they make it flexible. So yeah, it's not like it just dies out.
Yeah.
And we've seen some of those problems with things like Castrum, which even now people are still having trouble queuing for when they're trying to do their relics, which is unfortunate, but I've known several people recently. But I think, again, that's because it's not accessible. You can't just queue up for it and go farm fates. You can't just, you know, it's one of those things where it's not like you can make a party finder and then go do something else and then, you know, X amount of hours later. So I think that if they integrate them again in a way that's more accessible and is more of the regular content lineup, even if it has a unique way it's introduced to the game, that we will see players do it and players will run it, even if it's not maybe, like some huge, like it's not like
Not like
every single person. Yeah.
It's going to be, you know, people are going to set it up, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's that thing, like, especially looking at Castrum, where it's like, okay, we'll go in. Is Castrum up? No. Oh. All right, I guess I'll sit here until it shows, oh, the instance is closed. I'll see you guys later. Like, there's a lot of like little weird quirks, and a lot of that is probably like you know, limitations of the game systems and stuff. But I mean, yeah, one of the best things about 14, we'll just set Eureka and Delabrum off to the side for a minute, is just how accessible getting into content is. Like, even if it's content that's like totally gonna kick your ass, you can like easily flag up, you know, the Epic of Alexander and go in and get your, you know, your face handed to you. But like, you know, it's these, you know, Eureka and Delabrum, they're their own like ecosystems, right? And so while that's not bad necessarily, right, it is different, and it's definitely a different kind of like balancing act that the dev team has to play with, making sure that people keep running this content, especially now with like Delabrum and Castrum and how that stuff is required for the relic. Like, that's being felt, I think, a little bit more this time around, because, you know, previously it's just, okay, you just kind of grind a bunch of stuff, but now there's these specific things you need to do that are on timers that you need people to do. And so obviously, like, if you know, Boja is what Eureka turned into, obviously the devs are learning from these experiences, so whatever comes after this will be even better. But yeah, I'll be curious, and I think, you know, the proofs of metal, I think these buffs are definitely going to help for you know, people that need to catch up on this content. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised too if at some point they go back and they do some tweaks to Southern Front and to Castrum again, just to make it easier, or they, you know, maybe even, depending if it gets really bad, make it so you can circumvent the Castrum altogether. So
I mean, all of that said, and all of the other and the discussion about Savage and all of the other, you know, details encompassing, I'm actually really excited. I've really liked these 48 player sort of pseudo dungeons. I think they've done some really fun stuff, even in Castrum. I love like the part where you have to split off and everybody's going down the different wings. I love these little creative ideas. I am really pumped. I love airships. I love the whole 12 aesthetic. So sorry, we've got loud honking outside my window, but
they also
the Dalriada
love the
looks really cool. Yeah, it's very good. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to the new zone because it also looks like, from what we've seen of the visuals, that it's like a little more varied, that
Right.
the landscape and some of the details, I'm hoping, are maybe just a little bit larger than the first map
Mhm.
that we had, so that there's a little more to explore and find, and these new critical engagements and things that they're adding. I'm looking forward to it. There were a
Right.
lot
Yeah.
of, I think, fun discoveries those first
Mhm.
couple weeks of Boja. And gosh, the first time you go in for that red choco,
Yeah.
critical, it's so good. It's so hilarious. So I'm really looking forward to more of
Um,
that.
Yeah,
Some
I think
really
it'll
cool
be
lore,
fun
too.
to jump into. I think I'm sure there'll be at least one thing in there that'll be just fantastically meme worthy.
Mhm. Oh,
Definitely looking forward to it. So,
Yeah,
um,
I love all the like, just as the last thing to say on that part is I love all of the like mechanical lore. I don't know how to say this, like the pyromancer, right?
mm,
Like he what are those abilities, right? How does it work in 14? Like I love that sort of stuff. So as they show us more, like, oh, okay, how is
it's
he doing
funny
that?
you bring that stuff up. I
Yeah.
recently ran through Alexander and Warrior Triad with my wife because she hadn't done them yet.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
remember Ceruleum Tiger? Remember that was a thing.
Yeah.
That was a thing we had. Whatever happened to Ceruleum Tiger things? Why didn't we ever go back to that? That could have been a thing.
Yeah.
Um, but going back to Zadnor here, there's also going to be a means for increasing mount speed. Skirmishes and critical engagements will be adjusted for fewer participants, right? We were just kind of talking
Nice.
about it. We should have
Yep.
finished the list before we start going on off the tangent here. The availability of large-scale assaults, again, like Castro and Lacus Latori, will be adjusted.
Good.
Chances for being selected for duels will now increase upon non-selection, which is cool for people that are after that. And
Mhm.
then Delbrum Regenerate Savage will be adjusted to allow between 24 and 48 participants. So,
And they
yeah,
did also
perfect.
mention that
Mhm.
alongside those, the new things we're getting, did we already cover this? I'm looking just to see. Alongside the new skirmishes and critical engagements, that they are adding new duels, which I thought was a
Mhm.
fun touch, especially for people
Good.
who, did the first ones and, really want to do the second. I'm curious if there's going to be some kind of culminating achievement or title that you get for having completed all of them between both zones.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I would love that.
Not my thing. I don't think I could ever win any of those duels, but I know some people that are like really hard into those things.
Fusion, you
So
could totally win them. They're actually not that hard. Like, I'm going to be completely honest. When you know the
You
mechanics
have to know it.
and
Yeah.
you know what
well, right.
abilities you
When you
have
know
to use.
everything, but
Yes.
like we'll see what the rewards are. Like right now, I'm
Sure.
just all right. It's at this point, there's not a lot of people in Southern Front, so it's like I guess maybe that makes it easier to get into them. I
Yeah,
don't.
it'll
It's
be easier.
not my thing, and that's okay.
All it would
They
take is a
also
really cool title. That's it.
I mean, yeah. I just think it's a clever idea.
Yeah.
It's something where, again, we have a lot of players that I think want to showcase skills. And
Mhm.
to put something in where, we had these critical engagements that for the first time are kind of, I mean, you see this with Fates, I guess, but
Sure.
they're of a slightly different caliber in their difficulty. So getting to see
Yeah.
people fighting these epic battles while you're running around is so interesting.
Mhm.
And then to also have something with these 1v1s where you are on the spot, right? And you are in the spotlight, and there's this extra pressure to perform in a way that I think is, again, just a clever additional difficulty that has nothing to do with
see
just
that
how many
I
mechanics are
not
layered on
Yeah.
top of each other.
I'm not a fan of that kind of extra
Yeah.
pressure. I mean,
I
that's
get
why
See, I
I'm
love
really
it.
hesitant to do any like tanking or healing, right?
I mean,
I get that.
I went to theater school, so being on the stage is something that I find to be fun. And it is funny though because I was so nervous to tank when I first started, and
Yeah.
yet the idea of doing something like these solos or these 1v1s where people are watching you and cheering you on,
Mhm.
I think that in and of itself is a reward. Like to be there and be witnessed
Mm,
if you succeed is something that forms like a memory that is
Yeah.
so
sure.
special. And those first few weeks when, this released and, I was running around with friends and somebody would get selected and we were all like yelling in the
Yeah.
Discord,
See,
like, you can do
I'm like the
it.
complete opposite end of that, like in terms of like
Yeah.
wanting to do it because like I don't want to take the duel away from somebody that might win and be able to give us all XP
Sure.
buffs. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
be that guy. Sorry, everybody, I let you down. Like I don't want to be that guy, right? I'm the glass half empty guy when it comes to duels. They did show off
Jin,
some of the what.
I was just gonna say, I believe in you. You could do it.
Thank you.
I think Haps went through and beat every single one on White Mage, and I
Don't
went into
even
one on
compare
White
me to
Mage.
Haps. Like, come on, really? It's
Fusion,
like night and
you
day.
listen to me. Listen to me. I raid. I've been in Ultimates. Do all sorts of stuff. A lot of these 1v1s, and you break down the mechanics, they're very simple. It's like simple things that you just like you already know. I know you know how to do it. And this goes for anybody else who might be nervous about these 1v1s. Like it's literally like the first one is literally just like stand, drop a puddle, move a step.
I
Stand,
didn't know
drop
I'd
a
be getting a
puddle,
pep
move a
talk
step.
today here.
I'm a pep talk everybody. Everybody gets a pep talk. Because
Trying to
it's
make us
Oprah
more
something,
than
Winfrey of
mildly
pep
amused.
talks.
well, because it's something where I think people psych themselves out so much. But
Sure.
like I was surprised when I first got into it how accessible these were. The only thing you need to know is like what action specifically you need to have for that encounter and when to detonate it. And the rest of the stuff really is like just stuff you've learned in the game already, right? So it's not like these 1v1s are something that only the cream of the crop, the absolute number one, only DPS, you know, people who are top parsers can do. And I hope that people will try them because it is something that I think is great. It's fun. It's different. It's interesting. I haven't seen something like this in other games outside of like a 1v1 PvP arena.
Yeah.
And you can do it. Like you can do it if you look it up and you just have an idea of what to expect. So I hope that people will try it because I think it's worth it. You don't need to psych yourself out about it. It's a little nerve-wracking with that performance element, but they're really simple like building blocks for the actual fights themselves.
Someone needs to clip that, and then we just replay it. If anyone needs, any sort of courage to do any content,
That's like that's our Shia LaBeouf just do it
Yes.
clip right
Just
there.
do it.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
During the live letter, Yoshida gave us a little peek. There's also some official images out now of some of the rewards we'll be getting with Zadnor. If you guys liked the rewards from Orbone Monastery, we'll be getting some more FF12 character glams here. Vieira's, you don't get a hat, but you get a headband.
It at least shows
You
up.
get something. You get something.
There's something
And there's also going to be a 2-person air bike mount. Anybody that's played 12 will recognize this.
It's Fran.
Yep.
It's Fran and Balthier's booty bike.
Booty
I
bike.
love
Is that the
it so
official?
much. Yeah, if you're in the front position, you're in the booty position. Sorry, I don't make the rules. It's just the accurate description of what's happening here. Also, Petal's armor is so cute. I'm a little bit bummed. I'm a huge 12 fan. For anybody who can't tell by my reactions. I'm a little bit bummed that it looks as though they have once again added in like weird gender changes for the gear where it's like I can't tell if this is just that like one of the sets has the full shorts and the other one has like the leg strap with the shorts, or if it is female male. It seems more like it is female male on this, which is a little disappointing. I'm like, why in the world couldn't the guys just wear the shorts with the leg strap? Like I literally don't understand why you had to make them 3/4
some guys
shorts.
like short shorts.
It's just it's weird to me. It's so
it is
in a
strange.
game where like male characters can wear mini skirts.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you making them capri shorts for men? Like I just don't get it.
Why
It's
even
been really-
take the time to do that?
Yeah.
Waste
It's
your
been
time.
odd.
You don't need to.
We've had, like there was the big push for some of these outfits, right, to be not gender
neutral,
locked, and then it seems like they're just like they did it, and then they're just like, okay, that was a thing. Now we'll just continue how we've been doing. So that's kind of like, all right.
I think it's maybe just a tradition that they do because you could literally save time and money by just not making the male version. Like, why did you have to? Like, you don't need to.
Get it. It's I don't know. It's frustrating because I know plenty of players who play male characters that want to show more skin or like, they want to have more of those silhouettes. And I know plenty of female players who are the opposite direction, right? They're like, I wish that every set that I had didn't necessarily become like a boob window booty short situation. And like, of course, vice versa, across the board, different people want different things. Like, for me, it always stands out oddly as like a female player when there is a version of a set that is like more inherently, and again, this is sort of, not that I necessarily think that this set is sexualized, like I'll be real, but it is always weird to me when it's like, well, it's cool for the women to be wearing booty shorts, but not on our men though. And I'm like, What? So
I-
okay,
I just
okay.
want to go on record. I think a male Rogadin in booty shorts would be hilarious and amazing. And
Yes. I mean, it would
um,
also be like sexy. It would be cool. It would be like they don't always have to be like, again, it's perceived
Sure.
gender. It's like, oh, short shorts on a woman somehow are appealing, but short shorts on a man is like funny and comical. And like I only say that because I know so many people who are across the gender spectrum that play Final Fantasy XIV or LGBTQIA+, who to them stuff like this is really frustrating, right?
Mhm.
That gender separation and expectation of like what it is to look like a man in something and what it is to look
Right.
like a woman in something. And to some players that's not going to matter, but to
Mhm.
other players this kind of stuff happens and there is that moment where you're just
Right.
like what
Why?
why?
To me, it's always just why the extra effort, right? They're always like, yeah, we're up against the wall. It's hard to do this. Then don't make a difference in the gear. That's one less set to do.
we can't make Vera
Yeah.
hats, but what we can do is
Yeah,
make sure
give you a leg
that
strap.
elven guy has more longer pants than this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
more
again,
longer
all of-
pants. Is that even?
Yeah.
more longer pets. Like all of that said, I think these sets cute. I'm excited they're in here. We
Mhm.
still need a few of the 12 outfits, so I'm curious if we'll ever see those added in if they're trying to do a full set, right?
Because I think we missed Ash, right?
We don't have
We missed
Ash, which is a
Ash.
huge one.
Yeah, seriously.
So I would like to see more. I think they're really cute. I think the mount is really good. But yeah, there's just a few little things with this where, I was
Mhm.
like, why is this happening? I don't understand.
I can't wait to see all the cosplay and the stupid, just people running around town yelling at each other.
Oh my
Captain Bosch, I
God.
know.
Yeah. It's
I
gonna
hadn't
happen.
even thought about that, and now that's the only thing I can think. Well, I
Right.
mean, you could do
When
that
you have
already.
Larson,
You could
Yeah,
do that
you
already.
could.
We already have the Vaughn outfit, right?
It's true.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And if you haven't played 12, go pick up Zodiac Age. It really makes the game
It's the
very
best
quick
version.
and good and easy, and the music is great.
Yep.
Zodiac Age was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See where some of those enemies are coming from, because you can see Belias, you can see, yeah.
There's so much good stuff. And on that note, this is something that is sort of adjacent to, we were talking about some of the additional sort of lore reveals or discussions that we've had with interviews recently following FanFest. And there is another one that I think is really interesting if you're into Viera, if you're curious about male Viera, if you're
Yes.
curious about all these other
Bring
things.
this up, yeah.
Yes, Matsuno just recently had an interview. Do you remember what it was on, Aldiano?
I don't know where it was. I just remember finding the translation and being like, yes, he talked about it.
It was a Japanese language interview, but there's a lot of
Yeah, it was on
translations going
Twitter.
around. Yeah, people are posting it and things like that.
Chances are probably pretty
discussing-
high that it's like Famitsu or 4Gamer or
most
the
likely.
Yeah.
usual suspects, right?
But they were discussing particularly Viera and like the ways that they I guess identify with gender and the discussion between female and male Viera. So that's a really good read if you haven't read it yet. Directly from 12's creator as well, which is cool.
Mhm. People are like, oh, it's not lore, and he's like, no, actually, we just didn't. We were gonna, but we just didn't.
He's like, but I left the project, so it never
Yeah,
totally
we
made it.
literally
in."
couldn't do it.
With this content, we'll also be getting the final step in resistance weapon upgrades.
Mhm.
So if you still are working on raids or Delabrums, I don't want
Yeah.
to say try and get them done by Tuesday, but maybe try and get them done by Tuesday. I still need 4 Delabrum runs for my Drake.
Yeah. I always do this every time I go, I don't want to do the relic. And then the last version comes out and I look at it and I go, but it's finally a good book. And then I do the relic. And I'm upset at myself
Solid
for the
good
next
shit.
expansion and go, I'm not going to do that again.
I
do it again.
I don't know how I'm going to be able to psych myself up for the machinist one. It's already a gun.
Yeah.
It's literally 2 guns in 1 gun. I don't know how they're going to top this. I don't know how it's going to motivate me to want to get it.
don't
Stay
know.
I
tuned.
mean, I'm in the reverse of this because I have not particularly loved the White Mage one. I do think that the tree branch is actually a kind of unique and interesting
Yeah.
sort of druidic feel. So for very specific glams, that one's really cool. But when it comes to like the overall evolution thus far, I haven't been super taken by White
Mhm.
Mages. but I'm making myself do it anyway because I'm sitting here going, if I at least get through one, it makes doing the others easier. So I'll get through one and I'll get it all level. And then if I decide the others are cool, I'll do those.
And I'm sure at some point they'll make those a little bit easier too. Like it's same thing for me. Like, right, I'm mainly machinist, but like I play Dirk a lot too, so I'm working on both of those. But then like that glowy Gunbreaker one looks really nice, even though I don't really play a lot of Gunbreaker, but I do have it leveled because it's Gunbreaker, and I played a lot of 8 back in the day. And so like it's kind of silvery and bluey, and it kind of looks like the ultimate weapon from 8, and so I kind of want it, but also like I don't want to do 15 more Delibram runs because I value my sanity. So we'll see.
I
We'll see
couldn't
what
tell
happens.
from that.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
So they say with these new weapons, the stats will be slightly better than those from Eden's Promise Savage. And right, just like we were saying, once this upgrade has been done, the process for upgrading further weapons will differ. So it'll probably be a little easier. So that's nice. I like that they did that this time around.
Oh yeah.
It is
Oh yes. I mean, it's tough because I understand how you want to make this a grinding effort, and also just how you want to make it so that this content and stuff that we've been discussing, you know, coming out of this expansion is still being run and people can still get cues for a variety of things or see an open world where people are doing fates. So all of that I understand functionally, but I do find that I am far less likely to engage with it if every single one is just super, like, it's all the same, super hard to get. Like, if I get one done and it makes the others easier, there's some little part of my brain, I'm sure there's a psychological reason for this, but there's some little part of my brain that just goes, well, but it's easier now to do all the others, so I'll do those. And that just makes it feel better to me. Yeah.
It's weird, right? Because it like, especially after doing all the like the raids in that like middle step, right? You don't have to do those anymore, and that's great. But then like I just look at that little quest in the corner of my screen, you know, 0 out of 15 Delibram runs, and I'm just like, I don't wanna. I don't wanna.
I'm a weirdo. I was so sick and tired of the 24-man runs, and I even love Evilise. I love 12, right? I don't know what it is about Delibram. I'm weirdly obsessed with running it, and I admit that this is just
I'm
a
sure
me
it has
thing.
absolutely nothing to do with that strong Rogadin woman at the end on her weird robot unicycle thing.
I want
that. I am fine.
Which
if she
part?
wants...
All day.
Yes.
Yes. I'm fine if she wants to use me as like a footrest. Like if I need to kneel down by the chair and then she just, you know, I'm okay with that. Yeah, so I'm a simple
Looks like
woman.
you don't need that weird robot unicycle thing. I can hold a wheel, jump on my back. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm weirdly obsessed with Delibram. I'm not sure what it is. I just think that the designs are cool. I think the idea is neat. I love the whole progression. For some reason, I am not sick of it yet, but I will check in after I have done at least one or more weapons fully.
Right.
I'm on the Delibram step right now, so.
Yeah. You know,
that's your
something...
first weapon, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But...
yeah. See, I'm like 11 into like my second, so I'm just like,
Oh, well, you know.
Yeah.
This is
I mean,
still less work
granted,
than the other relics, but
granted, I was before that just queuing into Delibram for fun.
See, and that's
you gotta make use of every run. You gotta.
Yeah. It's one of those things, right? Because I usually don't interact with this content, and I'm trying to get some time, because what I want to do is literally level every DPS. I'm not going to say every single job, because there's like, for Bard, I'm not even a Bard. I'm like level 29. I think I stopped at. So I'm still an Archer. I want to do all the DPS before the Media Tour, if there's a Media Tour, just so that if there's things to cover, I would understand all of the rotations. And that's stupid, and I shouldn't be doing that. But I also...
Well, you got 4 or 5 months. Godspeed, sir.
Yeah, true. And I am way behind on all of those. Like, so behind. There are
Isn't
some jobs
great how like you get this like amazing idea and you're like, I'm gonna be like so on top of this stuff.
I want to do it.
And then like 5 minutes later, you look at your schedule and you mapped it all out and you're like, I am so behind.
Yeah. It's like, oh my God, how am I
I
even gonna
mean,
do that?
the one good thing is that level skips exist now.
I wasn't gonna. I mean, yeah. You know,
It's one of
when it comes down to the time or money.
Alternatively, you could throw them in a deep dungeon.
Yeah, it's true. We got the earring if you pre-ordered, you know.
Yeah.
That's true. Oh, I need to redeem that code still. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, especially this is for me personally, right? If you are a veteran player and you are experienced in playing DPS, for example, right? With you wanting to level out the DPS so that you have a fundamental understanding of how they operate, what the changes would be like, etc., right? I'm of the opinion usually that if you have that perspective and experience and you are familiar with how DPS functions within the parameters of Final Fantasy, if you level skip those classes and then like play them, you will still probably understand how they work.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about the stigma. I'm just like, that's a lot of money when you think
I
about
mean,
it.
that's true.
Like I haven't leveled anything other than Summoner and like Machinist. So.
But if you get to those last couple, it gets real tempting.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. As someone who's done the Amaro mount, I know that you have the experience.
I got to the point. See, this is funny. I'm over here like, I can run Delabrum forever.
Yeah.
I got through half of my classes for Amaro, and I was like, I cannot take this for another day. I cannot handle it. So, yeah, I bought a lot of.
So Rook just sent all of Square Enix's kids to college with all of her potion purchases.
Hey, you know what? I've always been of the mind, being a developer, hey, if you like a game and you have the money to spend, do it. Like that's what you should be doing.
If you
want to support
if you're having fun at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Yeah. If you can afford it, freaking do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I didn't mind leveling them in that last gap. I didn't even mind going back into things like Palace, right? I liked learning the classes. It was just holy cow, that 1 to 50. I know it goes faster than ever at this point, but I just couldn't with like a handful of them. I just couldn't.
I don't want to do Brayflux. I don't want to do Brayflux, man. I just don't want to do it.
Here's a question, right? Without trying to go off on like a completely like other tangent, right?
Well, there's not a lot in the live letter.
Do you think that experience would have been better if you had all of your actions available and they just sync down to what level you were at? To me, that's part of the reason why I don't play Summoner in a lot of content. I just play anything else because it drives me insane. I do get a little sad if I like queue up for something and I'm like, turret, ew. I don't want it. I want my robot. What is this little thing? What is this?
Yeah, it's funny. I even like running lower level stuff. It's weird because I tell people I don't love to tank, but I love to tank early dungeons, mostly just because I like being a tank. I know those dungeons really well, and I like helping new players while I tank my way through them because a lot of times, there's a lot of little things in those dungeons where people don't know what's happening or they're just learning their stuff. Right. And if you have a tank that knows how to navigate like Totorock or Hawk Manor the first time, it can make a huge difference.
Yeah. I had Totorock. Like the last time I did Totorock, I don't even remember when it was. It was a while ago, but I go in there, I'm like, crap, where do we go?
Right.
I couldn't remember.
I find it weirdly satisfying to tank those, but I don't like tanking at all ever after that point. And I mean, I'll do it and I can be fine and I won't die. Like, it's not an issue. I just, I like it better at those lower levels. In almost everything else, though, I do find myself missing those other abilities. And there are certain moments or thresholds, like Aurum Vale, and the fact that you don't have Medica 2 as a white mage, where you sit there and you're like, do I manually put regen on every single one of these babies? Or do I like it just, there are these weird little hitches where it feels like you should have certain abilities or how long it takes to unlock the, this is all white mage perspective because that's been my main this expansion. But even in other things, this shows up as well, where your AoE unlocks really weirdly late or really super early, or like not having the AoE Lily heal is a really strange, awkward thing up to a certain point because you get so used to using it in lieu of everything else.
I'm just imagining Rook like casting all these regens in Aurum Vale and be like, why won't the ninja eat the fruit? Just eat the fruit. That's all you gotta do. Eat the fruit.
Because you sit there and you're like, hey, if you eat the fruit, it'll cleanse every debuff you have. I see, my friend, you still have not eaten the fruit. And now you have so many stacks that not even my regen can save you.
It's funny. I have two regrets from 1.0. One is not having gotten the White Ravens legitimately. The second one was not having gotten that legacy achievement for completing Aurum Vale without eating a fruit.
There was an achievement for that?
That's amazing. Yeah. Maybe that's why people don't eat it.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That would be so. This would be my dream. If they ever wanted to do an Orm Veil that was like there's been mention of things like Mythic Plus systems, right?
Mhm.
Orm Veil is one of those dungeons that I think would be hilarious if there was some hard mode version of it that you could toggle where you weren't allowed to eat like any fruits and any stacks that you got were persistent for the entire thing.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Like that would be so fun.
Well,
I
that's
would
one
run
way to
that.
learn how to play a healer.
Yeah.
I would run that all the time. I would do it constantly. That would be so fun to me if you had your full skill set and I had to use it as a white mage. Unfortunately, I don't see them doing anything like that, but it would
No.
be unique. It'd be
Yeah.
interesting.
They had some cool things with the 1.0 dungeons. Like you could there were speed chests. Like if you got to the end and beat it in a certain amount of time, you'd get an extra chest.
Yeah.
That's why bards were so popular in 1.0 because we could make things go fast. We could give black mages MP. Never even saw Garuda's sisters. I went as bard.
Yeah.
Everybody else with a black mage. She was done. That was it. That was the fight.
The end.
But
ARR
you
comes out and I'm like, oh wow, cool. They added ads into this fight. No, they were there the whole time.
But you says the Legend of Orm Veil Ultimate, which I just would love.
Look, yes, that would be great. That'd be hilarious. Give us an ultimate.
That would be fun. I mean, even a version of Sistasha where you had that breathless like debuff from the Evil East raids, and there were like specific areas where like you had to run and burn DPS, like you know, burn and add. You had to like book it as fast as you could and burn this thing so that you could cleanse the debuffs and then make it to the next checkpoint. That would be super fun. There's just a lot of like unique little things they could put in.
Or something now. I think that'd be so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it'd be cool. This is
What
that's completely off basis of anything to do with the live letter,
Oh,
but
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
my
absolutely
feeling.
nothing to do with anything. Another thing that they mentioned in the live letter was desynthing gear obtained from trials. So this is fun. Gear obtained from certain extreme trials didn't yield the crafting materials when desynthed. So you would get the materials from Shinryu, Suzaku, Siryu, Titania, Innocence, Hades, but you wouldn't get them from like Zervan, Byakko, Tsukiyomi, Warrior of Light. That's weird.
Yeah, weird.
Basically, Yoshida's like, yeah, we really didn't have anything that said like we needed to do this, and so it just wasn't consistent. So they're changing it. So with 5.5, I guess, adjustments are going to be made so that all the gear obtained from the extreme trials will yield the crafting materials. So
I love that Yoshida-san was just like, yeah, that was our bad. Like it was super funny.
That's weird. How did that happen?
There's no corporate talk, nothing. He was just like, yeah, so it turns out that we didn't have a rule for it. So people were just doing like whatever. And so that's why it seems like there was no real reason, because there was no real reason. And we acknowledge that. And I was like, I appreciate this. Like, I don't know why. It's just one of those little things that so many other places you would see, I don't know, like a whole blog post or something where they were just like, we decided that this was something we wanted to unify. And I love that Yoshida-san was like, you were all right. Yeah, it didn't make sense. It turns out that we just messed up.
I love it. There's, a video game is a big, complicated.
There's so many monstrosities, right?
Right? Yeah. So sometimes it's just like, oh crap, we didn't even think about that.
Yeah, they're like looking back at the spec doc. They're like, oh yeah, we never really said, but we didn't lay any kind of default parameters out or anything. Okay, well, yeah, we'll go ahead and just throw that in there for you.
Fine.
Our bad.
Yeah. Turns out that's why you get 310 gil. It was just when you do a quest, you got to get gil. 310 is the default. That's what you get. I don't know.
There was an algorithm somebody made. They're not on the team anymore. We don't question it. We just
it worked. It was fine.
It's like we ran the numbers, 310 gil from these repeatable quests. That generates X amount of gil, which is way more than any game should generate. So we're just going to leave it there. We're not going to increase it. We're not going to decrease it. We're just 310. That's just, like, oh, I should ask Yoshida that. I'd be like, so what's up with 310 gil? Like, what's Give me the lowdown. What's up with 310?
Yeah. Why?
He's like, 310 is the street address where I used to live when I got my first job in game development.
You joke. But that
Could
seriously
be
happens
it.
so
Right.
often.
It's
Could
like
be it. I mean,
all the Pixar movies have
Yeah.
and I don't remember the number, but they have a number because it was like the name of a classroom that a lot
Classroom,
of the animators went to. Like
Yep.
it's just little things like that.
those personal touches are just so
Yes,
great.
they're
And
great.
I mean, even this, and with some of the stuff that I'm sure we'll talk about before we get through everything today, but
Mhm.
some of the stuff from FanFest on day 2 as well, which this sort of encompasses with the live letter and
Yeah.
everything. Those little moments that do remind you that the team that creates this game are people and humans, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just it's so great because I think 14's so special in the way that they communicate and how much
Mhm.
communication we have. And of course, there are things where people, like with male Viera and stuff,
Yeah.
right? And female Hrothgar, where people are like, why don't we have communication
Mhm.
about this? Because usually we get so much communication. But it's fun. It's just nice. And it's, I think, a real testament to both our community and the developers that we can have these very human moments together.
Mhm.
And so this was such a weird little thing. I don't even, I'm glad that they changed this, but just the way that he talked about it
Yeah.
made me just kind of go like, oh, I'm just glad that they caught that and I'm glad they listened. And this is just another piece of proof that they pay attention to what people are
Mhm.
saying and, really care about that. So
Yep.
Yeah. They threw out a upcoming schedule. Obviously, Endwalker has announced last week, November 23rd. So we have a little bit. Kidding, we have a lot bit of time.
Yeah.
Before this comes out. So, they kind of gave us the old roadmap here. So we'll have 5.55 this coming Tuesday, May 25th. Sometime in July, we're gonna have the Make It Rain campaign is gonna come back. And then June, July, we'll get 5.57. And then July, August, we'll get 5.58. In August, we'll get the Moonfire Fair and the Rising event.
Mhm.
In September, the Final Fantasy 15 collab will come back. So if you didn't get the Regalia the first time around, now's the time to do it. My assumption would be that this will be like the Lightning Returns event. This will be the second time they run it, and then it's Mog Station after that. So if you don't want to pay for it, do it in September. They also said that where was it? It wasn't on the actual thing. Sometime between September and November is hopefully some kind of Endwalker media tour.
Mhm.
If there is one, we'll be there. We have no idea how it's going to work this year. If it's in person, if it's virtual,
Digital,
no idea.
server somewhere, who knows?
We will, yeah. If there is one, we will have information for you when the time comes for that.
Cannot
as we
wait
usually do.
to get a
I'm
screenshot
excited.
of every single tooltip again and put it together on a murder board per job. That is my favorite thing to do.
Like I hate how like stupid busy we get, but it's also like it's like, okay, we're up till like 3 a.m. Okay, I'm gonna set my alarm for the embargo in another 3 hours. Good night, everybody.
And
I'm
it's
so excited. This is going to be great.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
collaborating. Oh no, it's just fun collaborating with the community too, because there's invariably something that you miss, and you're over there going, "Hey, hey, do you happen to have screenshots?"
Did
of
you
the
take a
tooltip for
screenshot of
Machinist?"
Wildfire?
Yeah,
I
Could you
have
please-
everything except for Wildfire.
It's like we're trading Pokemon cards, you know?
I'll trade you my Zapdos for your Wildfire.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, so many people have had questions since we didn't see anything with the keynote or FanFest
Mhm.
about things like the new capstone abilities or
Right.
the like
Yeah.
job
Well,
demonstration.
and those always come with the media
Yeah.
tour
Yes.
too. I think
Yes.
people were just because this year's been a little different in terms of
Yes.
how information has come out. So I don't blame them for thinking that maybe they would mix it up and give us that stuff. But yeah, definitely September, November we'll absolutely have that information. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
I didn't think we
And
would have, but I
yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure because right, we didn't know until they announced
Yeah.
the release date. Like
Yeah.
if this was going to be the last major news
Yeah.
until the expansion. So everybody was kind of like, well, if it's still coming kind of,
Yeah.
right on that threshold between like summer, fall but since we knew it was pushed back so far, it makes sense that we would get
Mhm.
something that would give us some more information. Of note though is that again this year we don't have an All Saints event. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if they kind of do like last year where there is
Something.
like you can do the old one maybe, but
they tied it into like another event. They kind of like doubled up, right? I'm trying to remember exactly what they did, but it was like you could get into it, but it was technically part of
Was it
don't know.
Rising? And
else?
no, because Rising is usually earlier.
Yeah, I
They
have
did.
no
They
idea.
doubled down on it with something. It wasn't
Yeah.
the holiday event. I can't imagine they would do
No.
it for the Christmas one, Starlight.
I mean,
Yeah,
if
but
they
it
did
was like
Nightmare
doubled
before
up.
Christmas, they could.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I mean, and it could be that maybe they are planning on it,
Yeah,
and they just,
and they just did.
you know,
Since it's a minor event.
there wasn't a rule that they had to include it here. So, but you know, they've admitted that was their mistake, and going forward on all roadmaps. I
Yeah.
don't know,
You
like
mean-
it's one of those things too, right? Because the way that you know 14 is structured with their events, usually they have exclusive items for that event each year, and then next year you can buy them from the Mog Station, right? So there is that like real money aspect involved, but like, you know, if they were to like reuse an event, there's a bunch of people that I'm sure hadn't done it yet, or hadn't gotten the stuff from last year. I'd be cool if they just reused it just to have it there, because it does feel kind of odd that like this past year they've just kind of like skipped events.
Yeah,
And so like I get it
it's
to an extent,
tough.
but like in theory, like you already have the data, just like flip the switch, right? Like I'm not a developer, I don't claim that it's that easy, but like
Right.
flip the switch.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, mentioned that it was part of Make It Rain, and that was it. I'm pretty sure it was. It was tied in.
That's right.
But it's tough, right? Because I do agree. I think that if, you know, and especially in these years where extenuating things have happened or we have a new expansion, if they said we're just going to run the same one as last year, I think a lot of people would be like, okay, I just want the expansion. That's fine. And yet at the same time, one of the things that did stand out to me when I first started playing the game was the fact that the seasonal events were different each year. And that to me, it felt like there was something special to be a part of that ongoing narrative, because everything else in the game has such longevity. It's not like they, you know, they want it to be replayable for ages, but to be able to have said like, oh yeah, I was part of this year. I remember this thing. I did this event. I always liked that because it avoids the pitfall of having, you know, massive patch content that only lasts for 3 months and then is gone from the game, where it's some sort of, you know, like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Guild Wars 2 tried that with their first living season, where it was like, only if you're playing the game now will you be a part of this crisis that's affecting the land. And that's just not sustainable. But to have these little like fun events that give you a sense of the time you've spent in the game, I do think is really special, versus something like WoW, where I was so excited for the seasonal events, and then I found out it was like the same thing every single year forever. I was very sad about that.
Yeah,
so
it's weird, right? Because, and especially with 14, I think there's such an expectation for story stuff, right?
Sure.
But you know, and I think like, as we've seen this past week, this community is super awesome, super understanding, super supportive. If they repeated it, like nobody would care.
Nobody
like
would care.
You would have the older players be like, you know what, this year's been a little crazy. That's fine. And then you would still have new players that, you know, maybe started playing this year because of how crazy things have been, and it'll be their first time able to do it. So like, I would be totally fine if they did that for any event. You know,
I just want...
though the fact that they are bringing that 15 collab back is nice, because those are a little less you know, formulaic in terms of like timing and, you know, things like that. So it's nice that we are getting that back.
I just want Garlemald Horror Night as a Halloween event.
What is this, like,
you know,
Six
like,
Flags, like...
into... Yeah, exactly.
God, what do they call that? Like Fright Fest? Was that
Fright
Fest? Fright Fest.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was yeah. It's like Fright Fest, but
I mean, they have the whole mini game with fashion. Right. They could do something where like you had some kind of costume party, you know?
That'd be funny.
That would be fun.
I mean, you know, this expansion, at least from what it seems like, it's about terror and terminus beasts and, you know, like the end of the world. Like Halloween would be a great event to do, you know. But, you know, maybe they'll do it next year.
For sure. I'm sure this is just a matter of timing with the expansion. I mean, the fact that November is what we're at, but there was, again, at FanFest, that little offhanded comment about maybe October if we can manage it. And I keep thinking about that because I'm like, but you have a specific date for the expansion. I do not want to get my hopes up, and I don't think any of us should, that it'll come out in October. But I mean, it could just be that this was something where they were going, if we have any chance of this, or if we are in no matter what the final throes of this expansion, we just aren't going to necessarily be able to do this. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the haunted house shows up,
Yeah.
And again, Halloween isn't celebrated as much around the world as it is NA, so that's a whole other thing. But it seems like a lot of people enjoy it, even if they aren't from countries that necessarily celebrate that, as large as we do.
Yeah. Also, where was it? So, a few weeks ago, when patch 5.5 dropped, we were like, hey, so like for some reason the Steam patch notes say that data center travel is 5.58. This says that 5.58 is like July, August. Awesome. No, that's not what they're sticking with. And again, right, when we talked about this originally, we're like, was this supposed to be here? They haven't said it anywhere else. Is this right? Is this not right? So they're saying that kind of like the media tour, they are looking somewhere between September and November for the implementation of data center travel. So I mean, that still gives a few months there for something to potentially do right before the expansion releases. So we'll just have to keep an eye out and see when that comes out. So and of course Foxla chimed into here with this schedule with the Rising in August. That's usually around the time they do their 14-hour broadcast. Obviously, things being the way they are, maybe they can do it this year, maybe they can't. But that's something to keep an eye out for as well. So.
That's pretty much it. Oh, there were some new furnishing items that were shown.
Yeah, there were a couple of
they were like
items.
A little footnote.
Yeah, there was a Q&A with Ishikawa-san. Yoshida also did a Q&A with some players via Zoom, which I gotta say, when I first heard that they were doing this, I was just like, Godspeed, people managing that. Like, right? Like, people that are like in the know are like, oh my god, you brave souls. Yeah, actually seriously. Worked out pretty well. It went really well. Yeah. So I'm glad that it did work out well. Nothing like super earth-shattering out of that, both Q&As, so we're not gonna like go in depth on anything here, but all the VODs and stuff are up for these if you do want to go back and watch them.
All that is really important is that Ishikawa is a gem and a treasure and needs to be protected at all costs, and I love her. She's so funny. Like, she writes these incredibly nuanced, detailed, morally ambiguous characters. You can tell that she's drawing on all of this experience that she's had with people and in her own mind. And then when she's talking, it's like the most humble, but also the most vague. And I love it, where she goes, I want you to interpret it. So interpret it. And then it's, she'll say something. Somebody asked her like what she does to relax. And she was like, I look at the sky. Yeah. And I was like, I love you. I want to go look at the sky with you. Let's go look at the sunset. Girl, I'll find you a nice bench. We'll have bento. We'll sit. And she's literally just describing for ages, like, there's one sky I like to look at. It's, over here, and I really like it in the morning when the golden light is there. And I was like, me too. I love the golden hour. And then she's like, and this other spot when it's nighttime. It's like, I am not surprised it's that funny. The skies played such a role.
Yeah. We have this, and then we have, like, remember that we lived. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is the same woman. And then, like, cue to, like, the 14-hour broadcast when they introduce everybody. And they show, like, Yoshida, like, talking. And then there's, like, the people, like, lined up behind them. But you don't really see them. But you see the plushies. And then you just see Ishikawa, like, grab the chocobo and make the chocobo wave at the camera. Same person. She's amazing.
She is so fantastic.
She plays with those plushies all the time in the 14-hour broadcast. It's so great.
Yeah. I love it. She's amazing. And yes, it's just so great. And it's cute too to see her and Yoshida interact because I feel like they're very much opposites. Like, she has that kind of like vague, impulsive creativity, and Yoshida's very like methodical and specific. And like, you can see that they both appreciate each other so much, and there'll be these moments where, like, during the Q&A, Yoshida, she'll say something like, I looked at the sky, and then Yoshida's over there, and he's like, well, the actual development process. And it's so, oh my gosh, it just is so charming, and it really brings to life the people that are working on this game. And I also just want to say that it has been so empowering seeing a lead female writer, like especially coming out of you know, like a Japanese game company, which, I mean, again, there's a lot of diversity. There's all sorts of people that are working on games, right? But to see them so uplift and empower and like put in the spotlight this lead writer who is a woman, and to me that, like, you know, that's just really special. Like, it makes me feel just so excited and happy about just so many things, you know, and it's hard to encapsulate. And again, that's not going to
Sure.
be everybody's experience, but the fact that they have so many different kinds of people working on this game who are also equally passionate and that they empower and uplift them, it just brings a smile to your face. It's just great.
Yeah. We're talking about the entirety of the FanFest kind of, and you look at the development panel, and I love that, obviously, thinking about what I do for a living. But just seeing the way that those people talk as well, because they're the more analytical. But when they talk about things like, yeah, I took this as what not to do, and then they all have a laugh, and it's like, yeah, that's right. They're joking behind the scenes as well, that just, yeah, it gives you a nice insight to the team and why things are the way that they are.
Yeah. So because this was a FanFest live letter, we had some pretty crazy announcements at the end here. They will be doing a collaboration with Citizen, the watchmaker, to release 2 Final Fantasy XIV themed watches. It's so funny because I'm sitting there watching the live letter, and a couple times during the live letter, and I don't know if this is like weird obsession, attention to detail. I've talked to Yoshida too many times, but I'm like, Yoshida's wearing a new watch. And then they come out, he's like, hey, look at this. I was like, I knew it.
You can't hide it.
Yeah, and then Ishikawa was like, me too. So they have 2 different models. They have a darkness model and a light model. The dark one will go for 4,400 yen, so that's like
now it's
450,
300.
350. I'm awful at conversion.
No, it's fine. I'm looking at the website right now. I'm looking at the store, and it's $3.99.
They have
this one?
Okay,
US dollars. So
$3.99 for the darkness.
Yeah, and $3.49.
$3.49 for the light model, which has 2 bands. So
yeah, which is weird.
One is
right?
super shiny, which is cool.
I do not wear watches.
Dark. Yeah.
I don't care about watches.
I want to be like, yeah, me neither.
I know. But I think these do look really nice, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, if I were more, like, I'm not a watch person, but my partner is. So if my partner would probably wear it all the time. I have never worn watches, but
see, I grew up wearing watches. Nowadays, I'm like, if it's not a smart one, I don't care. Like, if it's gonna like show me my text messages so I can be lazy and not like take the phone out of my pocket, that's really right next to where the watch is anyway. I just want a watch that tells me I did a good job if I take more than 3 steps every hour. Okay, I just need that motivation in my life.
That constant reinforcement. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did see a few people when this was revealed. We were, talking and hanging out a little bit, who said, "Oh, I wish there was a version that was a smartwatch." Just because for them they've maybe replaced it to something. They don't use just traditional watches; they use smartwatches, like you said, to give them feedback about fitness stuff or appointments or things. But I mean, maybe someday we'll get a smartwatch version. There are also some
people that are super just into watches, and this is for them. I will fully acknowledge I am not their target demographic for this.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's okay. I am also not their target demographic for the next thing, but this is still like, I can appreciate how
this is really cool.
This is. So Yoshida's like, yeah, okay, we have this watches, and then Soken's like, that's a cool watch, Yoshida-san, hold my sake, and he walks out with this Final Fantasy XIV edition Fender Stratocaster. Like, what? So these are going to be, they actually have a whole page for this. There's actually quite a bit going on just about this guitar. So these guitars are handmade. They are $3,500 US. They will take pre-orders late 2021 and ship early 2022. In addition, we will be getting a performance mode update in the next patch here on Tuesday with an electric guitar with the model of this Fender. And you can also get it as a furnishing to hang on your wall.
I love that. I love it. That's so good.
Crazy.
I mean, this is one of those things where I've heard a lot of people who were like, it's that expensive. And for anybody who doesn't, you're not really familiar with, instruments and things, Fender is a pretty huge name. And it's one of those sort of more luxury guitar makers, right? So the price did not surprise me. Coming from a musical home, being around instruments my entire life, I went, yep, that's about right. That's about how much that guitar will be.
Handmade. Like, oh, and it's got some really cool details on it too. Like on the body of it, there's two parts with this kind of like transparent-y, like crystal kind of stuff too. Yeah, like it looks really cool. Like I've never seen that on a guitar. Not that I've seen a lot of guitars, right? Like I don't have just like magazines all over the place of just guitars that I look at, but like these, I haven't seen this before, and so like it looks really cool. If I was made of money, yeah, maybe, but I'm not made of money, and I don't know how to play guitar, so but yeah, it does look really cool.
Algebra, do you play guitar? I get the sense that maybe you know how to play a little bit.
I do not, but I was a musician. I do know how to play some instruments, and I do have a guitar trainer that I've been working with because of the pandemic, right? It was like, I was bored. I was like, I got a ukulele. I learned how to play a little bit. Like, I kind of want to get into guitar. And then this one happens, and I'm like, well, that would make me do it. Because
I have seen a few people that's like, yeah, I could learn guitar.
Yeah. Right? Like I have done that.
And if that's you, go for it. Go for it.
I know. I've always wanted to, but that's a lot of money. Then
it's so tempting. I once tried to learn guitar because in my head I was like, I think actually I said this, I don't know if it's on my stream, I don't know. But I really had this vision of myself like sitting, out in like the college quad kind of thing with a guitar, picking up like ladies and bros and just being like, hey, what's up? I'm your pansexual dream and I can play guitar. Like it was my dream for so long. Yeah, here's Wonderful.
Like this is like the stereotypical, you need the cap with the feather in it. You just sweet talk everybody that walks by.
Yeah, like I had a vision of that, and I had let that vision die because it turns out that guitar is hard and my fingers are incredibly weak. And holding down the strings.
Just do it. Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Oh, here we go.
I know, but see, that dream came back to me when I looked at this guitar, and I was like, oh, I could narrow this down even further. I could charm Final Fantasy players with this guitar, like some sort of siren song.
Looking forward to that next fan fest now.
I know, I could even just hang it on the wall, it could be so great. But I don't know if I can justify it. And I keep going back and forth. I'm like, I shouldn't. I could spend that money on anything else.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I'm like, oh, that's a lot of money. And then like the night of the first fan fest, I'm like looking at all my Square Enix store pre-orders. I'm like, a couple hundred there, a couple hundred there.
Yeah. I'm thinking about it. If it appears on a stream, in the background somewhere, then you know what happened. But I'm thinking
all of a sudden, Aldino just stops using the green screen just so he can show the guitar hanging.
Yeah, exactly. The only reason.
This is why I bought it.
Yeah.
So you can
just
all
put it in the
background.
Never touch it. No, I would definitely learn to play it if I ever
wanted. Yeah. That all having been said, obviously, if you haven't seen it from last week, there are a whole bunch of new Final Fantasy XIV things on the store. They've got a couple new statues. They've got, if you want like a fanny pack, they got a fanny pack. They've got, there's like a scarf, just like all sorts of like stuff. Some pretty cool stuff too. So make sure to check that out. Unless you don't want to spend your money. If you don't want to spend your money, don't go anywhere near that website, because it'll get you. It'll get you good. And that is it for the live letter. We did it.
We did it.
Now we got to talk about the thing. I've been dreading it. I don't want to, but we have to, right?
I'm looking forward to it, but also it just hurts so much. And like it hurts in a good way. It's good news ultimately. It's good news. We all just sit here.
Yeah, it's like, okay, who's gonna take the reins? So the closing ceremonies on Saturday night, they're doing their outros, and they basically announced that pretty much right as the pandemic started, as soon as everybody was kind of locked down and quarantined, Soken was in the hospital for cancer. Oh god, watching Yoshi, like, props to Koji during
absolutely.
this. I would not have been able to have been I would have been a mess. I would have
In
been
2
able to
languages?
be
Yeah.
as clear as he was doing this interpretation. But it's just anytime that Yoshida gets emotional, that's like when like
I mean,
there's only like 2 times I've seen this man cry, and
Yeah.
this one was a waterfall compared to
Yes.
when
to
you think
before.
about it, I'm not surprised he had such an emotional. I mean, one, so Ken has, as he, talked about, and as a lot of people sort of talked about afterwards, from the beginning, has been one of the people that from this transition from 1.0 to 2.0 was so excited and so on board with supporting Yoshida. But then also when you consider the fact that Mighty-san passed away this past year, another friend to cancer, to think about having to deal with 2 people in your life that you loved during this huge global crisis with the pandemic, who get diagnosed with this scary thing, and our family has faced this. We, my partner's, my father-in-law just went into remission last year for cancer, and it's scary. It's a thing where you never know, if somebody is going to be okay at the end of it. And to hear them talk about this, and Soken to share the fact that because there was so much happening in the world and there was so much that they were trying to accomplish with the game, and because of his own desires to keep working and, to keep some semblance of normality even as he was in the hospital, they didn't tell the dev team at his request because he didn't want that burden being on them, especially when so many people were so stressed and worried with this pandemic. It's like, and Yoshida talking about not being able to visit him and being one of the few people that carry this
really
burden.
got me is he was one of the few people that knew about it, but because of the pandemic, nobody could go and visit him, and that just
You think about being Yoshi P and being the director, and every day someone's like, "Hey, we got to talk to Soken about this," or "Hey, what's the status of this?" He hasn't been in. It's obvious nobody's been in. And it's just he knows that. So every single request coming through, like that's an additional pressure. Like it's just some of those things that are hard to think about until they say that, and you're like, oh yeah, that was a tough thing to keep. Yeah, it just makes sense.
And it's interesting because I think we've seen people react to this in different ways online. And a lot of it has, I think I've seen outside people who will say like, oh, how could you possibly do that to the people you're working with, not telling them about this? And yet at the same time, like Japanese work culture is very different, but also, Soken speaking about, the fact that he was just like, I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it through this, but what made me think I can make it through this was the fact that I had that semblance. I didn't have people bombarding me with pity emails. I didn't, he doesn't say that specifically, right? But he says like, just work with something that, it was my anchor through all of this. It was normality through all of this, knowing that the players were out there and that they were so excited and that they, expect us and want us to create this game and this experience that they love. It gave me something bigger than myself to be a part of. It helped me hold on to hope during all of that. And it's a personal decision, right? Like, it's one of those things where even like knowing this now in retrospect, that like any of us and that the team and that everybody that comes together to support each other in this game, the love, the respect, it's incredible. Like, this is another reason why I think we advocate for, if you're giving criticism or feedback of the game, never jump to those death threats, never jump to, because the team that makes it are people, and the things that are happening with them, we don't know even a fraction of it, but that they hold on to their passion and their love for this game, and they know that the players have that too. It's so moving, and it just like, it's moments like these that bring you together. And that moment when Yoshida said, I don't know if this is the right place to say this, but I'm so glad that my best friend is back. Like,
yeah,
we all have had these experiences of friendship and how this game has brought us together. And gosh, like, one celebration is a celebration for all of us. And the community responding was just so beautiful. Like,
all the fan art, all of the memes, of course. It kind of recontextualized the piano performance. He's just out there doing whatever the heck he wanted to. You know why? Because he's celebrating, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
You didn't let him practice. Remember, he mentioned that, like, I didn't have any practice. You didn't need it. Whatever. Just go out there and do it, dude.
Yeah, I mean that's been kind of one of the. It's been a very like a trip down memory lane this past week for me.
Yeah.
Seeing a lot of people sharing some of the photos that we've had from our interviews and stuff. There's the one with Soken and Yoshida where they both are looking in the camera and they're just like absolutely ridiculous looking, because that's like what Soken does. First time I sat down and I interviewed him, just him for like Heavensward, and so we take the photo afterwards. He's like, one more, but this time make funny face. And that's the picture that we have. Is just he's like, and I'm like, because I'm like an idiot, and it was like it was hilarious. And so him and Yoshida get together. They did the same thing for us. We interviewed them. I think it was E3 a couple years ago when they did the orchestra concert. And Yoshida's like, hurry, take the picture, like trying to keep his like stupid grin, and my camera's like, I don't want to focus. It was funny. Like, it's just that's the kind of environment that when you get Sogen in a room. And him and Yoshida together, like it's just I can't imagine the game without the two of them. And so I mean, obviously the good news from all of this is that Soken is in remission. And from what I've seen, I've had personal experiences having to deal with people that have had to deal with cancer, and if there's one thing that I feel confident in saying, it's that a positive attitude will make such a huge difference. And if there's anybody on this earth that has a positive attitude, it is Masayoshi Soken.
Exactly.
So I have no doubt that he will get through this. But it's just been just the output. I mean, Welcome Back Soken was trending on Twitter for days after this. It's been great seeing the community.
We took a group of white mages over on Crystal to go complete the fate. And I had never done, for anybody who doesn't know, there's a fate that spawns in Costa del Sol, I believe, called Cancer, but it's Cancer in reference to the crab and like the, I guess astrological sort of symbolism and things. But if you go, it pops pretty frequently. And if you go defeat it, if you've never defeated it before, and I didn't know about this. I didn't know about it until we felled him. And the achievement pops up on screen, full remission. And I was just like, what?
God, you got me with that tweet. That was what, like the morning after or something that you posted. That
went out.
So I'm still in that mindset, right? Just even hearing the name Soken was just really getting me worked up. And then I see Rook's tweet. I was like, oh my God, you beautiful person! Why would you show this to me on Twitter?
I didn't even know. Like, we did the fate and we were having a lot of emotions, and then that pops up and then we all start tearing up. Like it was just. And people have been taking pictures and sharing it. I mean, the same like with Mura, like we were talking about, doing this vigil in honor of his life. The community does these things, and this goes for all MMOs, but I mean, particularly 14, where, I think people want to say like, hey, we're here, we're supporting you, we're cheering you on in whatever way we can. And it's just like, it's so incredible. It's so incredible to see people coming together out of goodness and kindness and compassion and doing something to honor that. It's awesome. Aldino, it looked like you were going to say something earlier. What one?
The only thing that I was going to say is that there was a picture somewhere. I think it was a picture of Yoshi P and Soken just being ridiculous in the camera. But then someone had another picture, and it was from, I think, the late 90s. And it was Sakaguchi and Uematsu. And I went, oh, see, that's when it got me. Because I was like, that's right. Because that's what I was hoping, right? We have 16 coming up, right? Have not said that Soken's involved, I don't believe, anywhere. But I would love to be, right? Because you think about it, to me, Final Fantasy 14, like, the music is the heart of it. And Yoshi P is kind of the brain, right? He's the one who lays it out. Soken is the heart of this team, too. And you can see it, like we were talking about it, right? He's kind of the guy, right? The one who just is zany, the one who keeps spirits up, I'm sure, that sort of thing. And then seeing those two pictures, I'm like, yeah, that's what I wanted. And to hear,
I'm gonna try and move this into our here we go. Here's the picture for anybody that hasn't seen it yet. I absolutely love this picture.
It's so true though, because even as a new player coming into 14, And I mean, I had a bit more of an eye on music just because of, my mom's a
Yeah.
pianist and, I've been in
Sure.
music my whole life. I've been involved in around it. So like for me, music is a big part of a game. And sometimes people don't always realize to the same extent. But 14's music, it's not even like a realization you have to have. It
No.
just like hits you upside the head. And I mean, there are sure still some people who, maybe don't listen to all the music or don't care about it that much. But
Mhm.
it is so distinctive to this game. Those fights, those moments, that like
Mhm.
exact, the heel step, the now fall in Garuda, the under the weight in Titan,
Mhm.
Ravana, just the entire sound of Ravana's song is
Yeah.
ingrained forever in my psyche. Like
Mhm.
there's so many parts of this game where the music and the experience go hand in hand.
We
And
haven't
it,
even. I don't want to interrupt you. I
no,
just
I mean, no, go ahead.
the twinning, right? Because we haven't talked about the Primals concert because that's second
Yes.
as well. Like
I
the
was just
memes that came from that song, just the song at all, just hearing it. People talking about that part of the trailer that is old Charlian and just listening to that part on loop. Like you're right. I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, yeah, I mean, exactly, 100%, And because Soken is this figure who is so diverse, like when I think about other
Mhm.
musicians, right? They usually have a niche.
Right.
And you know that when they're doing something for a specific game, it's going to sound like X. It's going to sound
Mhm.
like this is generic fantasy landscape. And maybe there's a little influence that's drawn
Mhm.
from somewhere else. But Soken is one of those composers who, just like he himself, is this like versatile, playful, fun, deep person. He's so many different things, and those facets show in the music. The just sheer amount of musical genres that we have in this game, from jazz to full orchestral to the gothic
yeah.
sort of stuff
Yeah.
in Heavensward to the rock stuff and the things that he does with the
Mhm.
primals to there are so many different genres of music, and every single one of them he just
Yep.
transitions. He just does it. And it just works somehow. Like, I literally can't think of another game that has such a wide array of genres represented. And he is the one responsible for all of that music. So it is, I mean, I think that's why it hit people so hard. I
Mhm.
think you really hit the nail on the head with him being the heart and Yoshida being like the brains, because
Mhm.
they all obviously contribute a
Sure.
lot in many
And yeah,
different areas of technical skill. But like,
yeah.
that I think is the truth, that this game is what it is because of those two. And sometimes because Yoshida-san is such a figurehead, I think
Mhm.
people forget that maybe Soken is as well, unless you're really
Right.
invested in the community, and then
Right.
but like
Hmm.
those two hand in hand have made this game what it is. So I'm so glad. Welcome back,
Yeah.
Soken. Like,
Oh.
welcome back. We're so glad to have you back.
So we do have a variety of interviews up on the site as well that we've had with Soken. There was one we had with Soken and Yoshida back in, oh gosh, I think it was 2013 at the ARR launch event,
Mm.
which it's funny. I was going back and looking at some of these this past week. Um, Soken actually, like, he did a little jingle for us in this interview, and I forgot that I had actually had the audio clip. This was
Yeah.
like the first sign that this was going to be the man who would play Yangsha and Lahi on stage. Like, it's that level of like this is the first hint
Yeah.
that we had that this was going to be like a thing, I feel like. So definitely go check that out. But yeah, I just yeah,
I
it's
do see in the
like
chat.
Uh,
Well, I would say I
mm,
see in the chat, and I just wanted to mention it really fast, that if Soken is the heart and Yoshida-san is the mind,
mm.
then Ishikawa would be the soul of the game. And I
Yes,
was like,
exactly.
the Trinity.
Exactly. You know,
yeah.
and you can keep going, right? Because Oda's in there and Koji's somewhere there, like you
Hmm.
build out this metaphor. There are more people, but yeah, those are the big names.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all make up the body, the
Yeah,
whole body of
exactly.
the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I was so glad that Soken's back, that he's in remission.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this is something he'll be working with for a while still.
Yes.
But definitely, without trying to throw out like a worthless meme, thoughts and prayers, obviously,
Sure.
to Soken. And just, I'm glad that he's still around. I mean, everybody that works on this team is just incredible. And I think for me, and I talked a little bit about this last week, just with FanFest, I think while there's a lot of exciting stuff, for me personally, it was just kind of a bummer because it's,
Sure.
it's a reminder of, we haven't seen, I haven't seen personally Yoshida, there hasn't been any E3s, there haven't been any, PAXs, and these guys are just so great to hang out and talk to. So, shout out to Soken, shout out to everybody at Square. Hopefully someday soon we'll have an event. We'll all be able to, cheer.
Yes.
That was that concert too, man. Like they deserved all the applause in the world, and there was just a boo there. Like that hurt.
Well, I loved I loved the moment where they did so many clever, fun little things. Like one, the Ardbert stuff during that concert destroyed me. That part in like the later half where he says like, "Are you ready to dance the whole night with the primals?" And I was like, "Yes, I am. I'm ready."
Like standing up half awake at 5 a.m. You're like, "Let's do it."
I was like, "I'll do it." Like that, and the connotations of how. I think with Ardbert in particular, it makes me think of that moment, and they picked that moment, right, where you think you're alone, and then all the other warriors of light spawn around you in the game. Oh, sorry, I'm having a lot of feelings. And like, you suddenly are reminded that there are so many people that are fighting the same fight with you, and Soken's presence, and all the discussion too with like a lot of the things with is it Seed of Sacrifice with the music from that, and like how there's those lines about like hope, hold on to hope, don't give up hope. And then to see behind them in this silent auditorium, the scroll of people all around the world yelling and clapping in the chat. And it is a bummer, right? We all want to see each other. Like, even if you're kind of an introvert, there's something special about being at a convention. There's something special about the energy and the passion and being together, for sure. And has been such a hard year to not see the people we care about and to not be able to go and connect with our communities in person. Even if you're somebody where that's not always like a thing you do every week, like there are those special moments and special communities that mean a lot to you. But there was for me also this moment where I went, we're all still together. And it just moved me so much because there are times in any hero's story, I think, where you think things are the darkest. And oh gosh, I'm sorry, I got like very emotional.
I thought we were gonna
really
get
hard
through
year.
it. I thought we were doing so good, Rook.
But these games and these communities and you guys and everyone else and the viewers and the players and everyone, we overcome that darkness together. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited for Endwalker because it's gonna be so special, like I know like when we get this next fan fest, it's gonna be even more incredible because of it. And I guess for me the biggest takeaway from FanFest was that it was a reminder that, we adventure as a party, not alone, even if a lot of times it feels as though we're playing a solo game.
I think it was Anonymous who put I saw his tweet, was like, "Oh man, the next FanFest is just going to be legendary," right? Can you imagine after that? I mean, just thinking about, like you said, it recontextualizes Endwalker because of the situation Soken and the whole year here. But that's going to be absolutely ridiculous. I don't know where they could have it that could contain all the people who want to be there, all the passion that will be there. Oh man, I can't even
imagine.
Planet Earth. Yeah,
exactly. Held on planet Earth.
Seriously.
We'll set up a stage in North America. It'll just be the entirety of North. We'll just turn North America into Midgar. The stage will be Canada. We'll just have some seats set up.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just over here crying a little bit. Don't mind me. It's good. Just good. It's a good tear.
I honestly, I'm surprised we kept ourselves together as much as we did through that. I was getting a little misty-eyed. I was trying to, it's not an easy thing to talk about.
Right.
So many people have, been impacted by cancer in one way or another. And to see this, to hear about how things happened, Ishikawa up there like, "Oh my God, why didn't you tell me? I was giving you so much work."
I know.
I can't look at the Seed of Sacrifice and To the Edge anymore without thinking about this. Now it's changed my complete view of the song.
When she said that specifically, like, "I gave you so much work," it's not the same situation. And yes, I've said I work in video games before, But I had a similar situation. A boss was sick, didn't tell anyone because right, we got to get the work done. And I noticed something was weird, and I was like, "Hey, you're being weird." And I was a little hot because I was like, "Hey, you're doing something that this person's not appreciating, right?" And I was kind of the messenger, and I didn't know, right? And when I found out, I was like, "Oh my god,
Oh.
I'm the biggest at." But it was fine because it was work, right? So that feeling of I didn't know, and I was, that like
Yeah.
I think it would have been worse to tell them, but like thinking about the development team as well, right? That's something that they didn't know until just then. How are you going to find out at a live event, like to keep
And
it together
it's
at all?
well,
Insane.
and it's interesting too because I don't want to say this happened at a good time because it's never a good
Sure.
time, right? But I mean, if he didn't want to tell people,
Yeah.
right? I mean, in the middle of a pandemic, everyone's working
Mhm.
from home. But if you go back
Yeah.
and you listen to some of I think they were probably told that morning.
Mhm.
I don't think they caught the
Sure, yeah.
people that were there. I don't think
Yeah,
they really were just
exactly.
like, hey, by the way,
Yeah, right then.
because I love Ishikawa, but I think she would have been even more of a
Oh,
mess if
absolutely
she had
destroyed.
just
Yeah.
Oh,
found
yes,
out.
yes.
Yeah.
Because if you go back and you listen to the live letter Q&A,
Mhm.
some of her answers, talk a little bit about like health and taking care of yourself, and then this over the course of the past year, Yoshida's been really adamant about making sure he's thanking healthcare workers and stuff.
Mhm.
And you find out that there's more than one reason for that. It's
Right.
several reasons, and it's just man, fuck cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
there
it.
you go.
Yep.
So anything else that we want to add here? I think we've kind of talked about it. I don't want to cut any discussions short, but I
No,
also
I mean, I
don't
think
want
it's pretty
like an
much.
hour of us just being like mopey and
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no,
not
no.
that that's a bad thing. Please
Sure.
cry your eyes out if you need to cry your eyes out. But
I guess this is a thing.
Mhm.
In the most concise way possible, what were your highlights from FanFest? Your top points. For me, it was definitely Reaper Male Vieira. It was definitely the Lahi performance. It was definitely the meme dance.
Mhm.
It was, I guess the piano performance of those two pieces with Amanda.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. I loved those two.
Actually,
And then
yeah.
the closing speech. Those were the really big ones for me, I think.
Yeah, for me, definitely the trailer. The
God,
music.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just Reaper. I mean, Mel Vieira, I was mildly amused. Just
Yep.
development panel specifically talking about Omega MF and how they melted. There was there's a picture, and it's funny because there's like the normal model and it has the skeleton, and it says the custom one, and it has all of the bones going to the ground. I actually took that screenshot and showed it to a couple of people I work with who are animators, and they were no context, and they're like, "What the heck are they doing? Like, why would you need that?" And I was like,
Those
"Oh, it's to melt."
development panels are always so
Yeah.
interesting. The last in-person fan fest in NA,
Yeah.
was it? I think it was the last one or the one before
I
that.
think so.
There's just a line that has always stuck with me. Anytime I see new stuff in 14,
Yeah.
there's just so much you can do with an orb.
Yeah.
It's
they're just so clever with these things.
You can have to dodge it. You can have to collect it. You can animate it. You can make them. There's
You
so
can
many
ride
things you
it.
can do with an orb.
I mean, we've got an Ozma mount. You could ride it.
We need attacks for players to be able to dodge orbs. Done.
Yeah,
Like,
that's it. That's all. It's all orbs all the way down.
yeah.
But yeah, I showed them that, and then they were like, "Wow, that's funny." And I was like, "Well, there was one time that they pushed a mask through a face to make someone's eyes melt." And so I showed them that too, and it's like even adjacent kind of in the industry in different places, it's like they are so creative, right? And that's just something to remind you. And of course, the Primals concert at the end and into the closing, right?
Yeah.
Those would be
BlizzCon's over here like booking like Train and Tenacious D and Foo Fighters. Meanwhile, we have like our lead localization guy like is singing in a rock band.
Yeah. Just salary.
It's just
I love how into it Koji gets.
Yes.
He is committed. He's like, This is a thing I will remember until the day that I die. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And he
That's
just
right.
like the hood, the hand gesture. I was like, I love you, you beautiful man.
Yes, I love if you haven't seen it yet. I don't know if it's still easily available. The Primals the concert Blu-ray. There's a behind the scenes video on that, which is just there's this part where Koji's like look at me, like I'm here with all these like professional musicians and stuff, and somebody makes a comment like, oh yeah, you're just a salary man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think for me, like Reaper looks cool. I'm excited because it'll be another job that I can level that I'll already have gear for if I'm leveling Dragoon. I think that's really cool. I think for me, like Lahi is good. I at some point we were talking earlier about like, man, there's so many things I want to do when I have time. Like one of the things on my list of things to get around to at some point is take that audio and make it into like a ringtone for my phone.
Yes.
I need it. I need to wake up to that. I just need. It's like that's the new like. There's the video of Tom Holland doing like singing in the rain on the lip sync thing.
Yeah.
Where like there's that unwritten rule, right? Where it's like every time it comes up in your timeline, you have to watch it. That's me with Lahi. Anytime I see that like pop up on like YouTube, I'm like,
Agreed.
gotta watch it.
So everyone
watch
send that to him on Twitter, please, right now.
Oh, thanks. I'll be here all day. And I think the most exciting thing for me, again, right, with the year being the way that it has been, was just doing that reaction video with you guys.
Sure.
Just being able to watch it with a group of like-minded, crazy, excited people. Even if we were all talking and it was hard to hear the video sometimes. That would have happened at the event. That would have happened at the event.
It would have.
Let's be completely honest. So, yeah, I didn't
even
really
think it was gonna happen. I didn't even think about it that there would be a reaction video because of it. So I was like, yeah, whatever. And I was kind of working, and then on Monday, someone was like, "Have you seen that? Wait, there's a what? Right, I'm in that. Okay."
I
knew it was being made, and I was just like, yeah, like here's the video stuff, whatever. And then like this pops up, I'm like, oh my god.
I mean, it is special. It was fun, And of course, there's always that bit of trade-off where it's just like, well, if you're gonna watch it with people, of course we're gonna be excited. There's gonna be moments where you're like,
excuse you, I was mildly amused.
Yeah.
Or mildly amused, yes. I always default to just absolutely muting everybody on the Discord if there's something that I really want to hear. But you're right. That's probably a big highlight for me too. It was really, really great to get to be with all of you and everybody that tuned in that night, and to know that all around Twitch, all around YouTube, that other people were tuning in and doing the same, and that Discord was exploding because I had all these different groups that were like, "Did you see? Did you see?" and all these DMs while we were doing it. That was a memory definitely that I'm gonna hold on to.
Yeah. I think that's that it. Is there anything else?
I think so.
I think that's it. I think we did it. FanFest done.
We did it. We did it. Only a little bit of tears.
Yeah.
Happy tears. Happy tears.
Yes.
Okay. Whew, we did it. All right. So if you want, you can email us, aetheryteradio@gamerescape.com. You can tweet at us at aetheryteradio. You can find us on Discord, discord.gg/gamerescape. We also have an Aetheryte Radio channel on there where you can come in, talk to us about the show, look at pictures of my Amarice that I posted last week, because that was a request that I felt threatened into having to post. Of course, you can find us.
Now.
Right, I'm still alive because I posted the picture. And of course, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook at Gamer Escape. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Next week will be hands-on impressions for patch 5.55. We will do our best to not be throwing all them spoilers out there, because the following week, is that the following week, right? 5th? Was that one? I tweeted it out. I made a picture and everything, and I completely forget.
Yeah, 5th, I think. Yeah.
The dates. Yeah, I think it's the 5th. Yeah, so the 5th we'll be doing our lorecast. This will be the lorecast of all lorecasts. This will be the entirety of patch 5.5. So we'll have part 1, we'll have part 2. Is going to be big. Moose from the winning Team Heidelin from Who Wants to Be a Gillionaire will be joining us. So it'll be fun. There'll be a lot of stuff to go over then. So next week, hands-on June 5th, Lorecast. So, yeah, that's it. That's what's coming up. That's our schedule. We don't have a haunted house planned yet, but it's still a few months out. Maybe we'll figure something out.
Some time. Got time to plan.
How do we do that? How do we?
In-game
Rising
event.
event is also in August, right? The anniversary of Gamerscape is also in August.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Actually, no. That's
not
podcast.
Gamerscape, but the podcast. Yeah,
that's the podcast website. Technically is June.
Okay.
Digital party.
Yeah.
In-game club event.
We old, fam. Gosh, what are we like 12, 13 this year or something? We old. I'll just be here picking the gray hairs out of my microphone if anybody knows me. So yeah, that's what's coming up. So hope everybody has a fantastic rest of their weekend. Make sure to go watch that Endwalker trailer today if you haven't already. I know I am behind on my daily quota of trailer views. And we will see you back here next week, Saturday noon Pacific, twitch.tv/gamerescape. Enjoy the patch. We'll be talking about it, and we'll see you then.
Bye.
Yeah.